Number 10. Ronan the Accuser. Making his debut in Fantastic Four number 65 back in 1967, Ronan the Accuser has been seen in live-action films as a villain in Guardians of the Galaxy, and now even Captain Marvel, played by the lovely Lee Pace. But who is this hammer-wielding big bad blue guy? Well, born on the planet Hala, Ronan was appointed by Supreme Accuser. Ronan was appointed Supreme Accuser of the Kree Empire by the Supreme Intelligence. He is second in command and is in charge of enforcing laws of the Kree. Since joining the Kree, Public Accuser Corps has done quite well, I'd say. So this hammer that he carries is known as the Universal Weapon. So minutes after his first appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, we see him use this hammer on a Nova Corpsman. It's pretty fast, it's pretty violent too. This guy's fearless. He's a fearless leader, and I wish we saw more of him in the MCU. He is a Kree, so he obtains the abilities of resistance to poisons, toxins, diseases, and was even granted pocket universe creation abilities from the Black Vortex. See, once he obtains the Black Vortex, it's game over. Ronan was able to take on Gamora, Beast, and Angel while they had all submitted to its powers. The Supreme Intelligence told Ronan not to do the same, but he used the power from the Black Vortex to fight back. And he did so quite successfully, I'd say. Number 9. Hela. Making her debut in Journey into Mystery issue 102, Hela, aka the Goddess of Death, was the big bad villain in Thor Ragnarok, played by the lovely Cate Blanchett. Hela is the oldest of Odin's children, so you know she's gonna have a few tricks up her sleeve. She was Odin's personal executioner, and if that wasn't badass enough, she rides a giant wolf. In Thor Ragnarok, one of the biggest reveals that was shown in the trailer, for some odd reason, was her breaking Thor's hammer with her bare hands. Well, hand, rather. Yeah, she doesn't play around. Hela is a reference to Norse mythology, the goddess of the dead, Hel. So, when somebody dies in battle, they're sent to Valhalla by Odin's Valkyries. But when a dishonorable soul dies, it stays in the body until Hela comes around and condemns it with her, boop, touch of death. She doesn't even have to wait until you die either. She can just kill a perfectly healthy Asgardian with just that little boop of death. Do I think we'll see more of her in the MCU? Yeah, I also hope so. I don't think they're gonna kill off that good of a character just like that. At least not yet, hopefully. Hopefully we see more of her in Thor Love and Thunder. Number 8. Dormammu. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. That line from Doctor Strange helped us understand just how powerful the Lord of Chaos is in the MCU to defeat. Making his first appearance in Strange Tales number 126, Dormammu is the Lord of the Dark Dimension. He's primarily a villain to Doctor Strange, which shouldn't come as a surprise to those who have seen the 2016 Doctor Strange movie, directed by Scott Derrickson. In the last battle of the movie, we see Stephen Strange using time as a negotiation method. He's arguably the strongest villain in the MCU. He's been around for thousands of years, seeing as he's, immortal and all. He's composed of pure mystic energy and can match the greatest sorcerers, like of course Doctor Strange and the Ancient One. He controls an army called the Mindless Ones, and is even more powerful in the Dark Dimension, being empowered by his followers, of course. With Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness being announced, I have a feeling we're gonna see this mystical entity again very soon on the big screen.
Number 7. Hulkling. Hulkling has both a Kree and Skrull heritage and background, being the son of Skrull Princess Anel and Kree hero Mar-Vell. He was spirited away when he was young in order to ensure he was protected and hidden on Earth, where he was raised by his foster mother, Mary Jo Altman, from whom he gets his surname. Theodore, or Teddy Altman, grew up to become a shape-shifting hero who was not aware of his true lineage until later in his life. He is not only super strong and durable due to his enhanced physiology, but he also has a healing factor and can shapeshift, even giving himself wings, which then he can use to fly with. Recently in the Empire event, Hulkling was also given the power of Excelsior, an ancestral space sword imbued with cosmic power, which was bestowed upon him when he became the Emperor of the Alliance, Emperor Dorak VIII. Number 6. Carol Danvers. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Carol has been established as one of the most powerful heroes that we have. She took a straight up headbutt from Thanos while trying to hold him off while he was wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, and she didn't even really blink during that at all. Craziness. Now in the comics, Carol is not quite as powerful, but she's still proven her strength and toughness time and time again. She's taken on the Hulk, managed to withstand a direct energy blast from Thanos, and even when she struggled to use her powers due to a tumor in her brain, she still fought to use her super strength, managing to lift up an entire subway train without really much effort. And in case you're wondering, that tumor was kind of trying to dampen her powers. fact, she could have killed herself by using her powers or flying at the time. Carol is also a skilled pilot and tactician, and although she's right-handed, you definitely still wouldn't want her to get you with her left hook. Even though she admits her left arm isn't as strong as her dominant right, she can still hit you so hard you'll fly from planet Earth to space if you manage to survive that hit, and if you can even survive in space, which I can't, so I would be dead. Number 5. Starbrand. Kevin Connor was just a normal human college kid when, during the White event, he received the power of Starbrand. This surge of power caused him to destroy the college that he attended and got him the attention of the Avengers, Nightmask, and Captain Universe. Starbrand would later travel with Nightmask to see his creator Ex Nihilo, who would then help to explain what had happened to Kevin and how best to handle these new powers. With the power of the Starbrand, Kevin received virtually limitless energy-based powers, which increased Kevin's strength and endurance. He was also able to project energy blasts, manipulate energy, and even manipulate matter at a quantum level.
In at 4, Ego. In the MCU, Ego was a celestial, a primordial and powerful being, and the biological father of Peter Quill. A living planet with a humanoid extension of himself, Ego sought to find meaning in his life and, to achieve this end, planned to remake the entire universe via an omnidimensional extinction level event known as the Expansion, using seeds planted on various worlds to terraform them into new extensions of himself, thereby eradicating all other life in the universe but himself. You get it? This process required 2 Celestials, however, so Ego traveled across the universe, siring children on humanoid and alien planets everywhere in an attempt to produce a celestial heir, eventually having thousands of children. Have you seen the show Seed? Yeah, it's like that. Ego hired the Yondu Ravager clan to abduct and transport some of these offspring to his planet, though none of them showed signs of having inherited celestial DNA, so Ego killed them. However, when he learned of a man from Earth who held an Infinity Stone without dying, he knew this must be the celestial son he had with Meredith Quill. But I think the most impressive part about this character is that not only is he a celestial, but he is also the commander from Sky High, meaning that technically Peter Quill is Will Stronghold, and honestly, that's a theory I can get behind. Sky High is a good movie, you should watch it. If you haven't seen it, watch Sky High. Penultimately, in number 3, Zeus. Zeus is a member of the Olympians, a group of humanoid beings that hail from the pocket dimension of Olympus. He was worshipped by the humans of ancient Greece and the Roman Empire. He is supreme monarch of the Olympians, god of the heavens, sky, and weather. Kinda like the 3 Doris Pokemon from Gen 5, from Black and White, Thunderous, Landorus, and Tornadus? Yeah. Zeus was the youngest son of the Titan Kronos, who ruled Olympus and Rhea. The Titans were the offspring of the sky god Uranus and the primal earth goddess of Gaia. Kronos overthrew his father's rule by fatally wounding him, and then the dying Uranus prophesies that Kronos would be overthrown by his own children, which I guess is kinda poetic. As a result of this though, upon the birth of each of his own children, Kronos had them imprisoned in Tartarus, the most despicable section of the extra dimension known as Hades. Yeah, hell. However, appalled by the mistreatment of their children, Kronos' wife Rhea concealed their 6th pregnancy from him and secretly gave birth to Zeus, and then gave the infant Zeus to Gaia for safekeeping. I don't know why I need to explain how a literal god of Olympus is a powerful villain. Like, do I? Do I really need to do that? I don't think so. I should have just said Zeus and then moved on. But ultimately, in number 2, Galactus. Galactus is the sole survivor of the 6th incarnation of the multiverse. Originally, Galactus was a humanoid named Galen, born in the previous incarnation of Earth 616 on planet Ta, a paradise-like world whose civilization is said to have the most advanced of any of the known universe at the time. However, the 6th Infinity and all its universes were in their final stages of collapse due to the multiversal renewal cycle, being consumed by the abstract entity known as the Black Winter. When the cosmos was going to meet its natural end, Galen was then approached by the embodiment of the 6th Infinity, the sentience of the multiverse basically, who merged its essence with the mortal Galen, this way giving birth to a new entity that would survive the multiversal renewal, Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds. However, the Black Winter also presented an alternate account of these events, saying that Galen's survival was it sparing him, and then turned him into Galactus to mark him as its herald. Galactus possesses the immeasurable power cosmic, and is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, having near limitless godlike powers, and being considered an omnipotent entity. He's mega OP if he's eaten enough worlds. That's kinda like me. I relate. And finally, in at number 1, Michael Korvac. Being first introduced in Giant Size Defenders number 3 in 1975, Michael Korvac's father was killed due to events surrounding his birth in 2977. He was raised by his mother, but when the solar system he lived on Earth 691 and its colonies became the target for the Brotherhood of Badoon, Michael became a traitor and helped the Brotherhood. However, after a few moments of hesitation, he was cut in half and fused with his computer by the Brotherhood, turning him into a cyborg of sorts. But this seemed to do more harm than good, at least for the Brotherhood, since now Korvac was dead set on killing those who did this to him. So, way to go. At least until the Grandmaster transported him to battle Doctor Strange and the Defenders. Korvac intentionally lost this battle and instead siphoned some of the Grandmaster's power using his new cybernetic abilities, making him even more powerful than before. Eventually, this guy ends up impersonating Kang the Conqueror and the Watcher, and with his ability to siphon power from others, this makes him one of the scariest villains in the Marvel Universe. At least if he was smart about it and didn't get himself killed. He ends up wiping himself out of existence after killing basically all the Avengers and the Guardians though. It's freaking nuts, okay?
Number 10. Magus. The evil side of Adam Warlock, Magus' story is a complex one filled with general cosmic confusion, but I'll simplify. Basically, Magus is an evil alternate future version of Adam Warlock, who was created to oppose Thanos. He got bumped around through time and found himself educated by chaos and order. He used what he learned as principles to build his own faith and his own church, going on to use this burgeoning religion to fuel a holy war which would rage throughout the cosmos. Pretty impressive. He later wreaked havoc with an army of evil doppelgangers of all of the heroes, who even proved too much for Thanos originally to handle. You know you're serious when Thanos is like, whoa, jeez, ooh. Number 9. The Beyonder. The one we know as Beyonder is in fact only a young member of a group of others known as such. Beyonders. The Beyonder is a mysterious cosmic being who came to our Earth and found himself obsessed with the fact that everyone on Earth was only a part of themselves and incomplete, as he realized there were many different alternate universes in which they all seemed to also live. He was the one responsible for creating the first battle world in the original Secret Wars event, where he pitted heroes and villains against one another. He is known for his ability to manipulate reality and for his apparent limitless power when it comes to his mental and physical strength. In other words, you don't mess with the Beyonder messes with you. Number 8. Parallax. Parallax is basically an intergalactic fear parasite, but he kinda wasn't always such. Originally, Parallax was simply evil Hal Jordan. DC had likely turned him evil to get rid of him while Kyle Rayner took over as the Green Lantern, brought in to help refresh Green Lantern comics, and reignite some sales for the series. It wasn't until much later that we would find out that the evil actions of Hal were not his fault really, and that he was under the influence of a parasite whose name he had adopted at that time, Parallax. It turned out that this cosmic being had been imprisoned within the central power battery on Oa, where willpower was being used to contain it. The Guardians of the Universe knew this, but they decided to keep it a secret for fear that, someone would release the entity. In the end, Sinestro was the one who awakened it after being trapped in the battery himself. I mean, probably a bad move to trap him in there, to be honest. With like a fear parasite. I feel like, you're already seeing that's probably not going to go well. His hatred of Hal Jordan turned Parallax onto Hal. Parallax worked for years to increase Hal's inner fear and self-doubt, and even was responsible for turning the hair around his temples white. Yeah, fun fact, that was Parallax. Now you know. And knowledge is power. Number 7. Silver Surfer. Another hero that we'd love to see show up in the MCU would be Silver Surfer, and honestly, I wouldn't mind this hero appearing with or without his attachment to Galactus, at least initially. Silver Surfer in the comics is typically known for being the most powerful all-around herald of Galactus. Norrin Radd was once a scholar who resided on the planet Zenn-La, but when Galactus arrived to devour his home planet, he offered instead to work as Galactus' herald, helping him to seek out planets to satiate his hunger in exchange for him leaving Zenn-La in peace. Galactus accepted Norrin's offer and transformed him into the silver-skinned surfer we know today, imbuing him with the almighty power cosmic. Number 6. Moondragon. Moondragon in the comics is the daughter of Drax the Destroyer. Their comic book origin together is a little different when you compare it with the Drax backstory that we know of from the Guardians of the Galaxy films, at least as we know it right now. However, the hatred Drax feels for Thanos provides us with at least some sense of connection to his comic book counterpart. In the comics, Thanos was responsible for the death of Drax's family back when he was known as the human Arthur Douglas. In the movies, of course, it was Ronan who was responsible, but Ronan was also working with Thanos. In the comics, while his wife Yvette died, Arthur was reborn as Drax, and his daughter Heather was also reborn as Moondragon. Moondragon would be taken back to Titan and would study and hone her skills and powers at the Shaolong Monastery. Moondragon has been a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, and Defenders, among others, so there is a lot of opportunity for how she could resurface in the MCU. And if Drax learned that his daughter was actually not killed but somehow survived, that would also add an extra layer of depth for Dave Bautista to play with as Drax. And I would be into that. I really like Drax. Number 5. Lockheed. With Lockheed, we also might get to see the addition of Kate Pryde and the other mutants. Yay! Also, we then therefore would actually get to see the amazing relationship between Kate and her steadfast and loyal friend Lockheed. It's weird to think of Lockheed as being so cosmic, as he's so closely associated with the mutant faction of heroes in the comics, and yet he is a dragon-like space alien. Lockheed befriended Kitty when she and the X-Men were kidnapped by the Brood and taken to one of their colonized worlds. Lockheed saved Kitty and decided to head back to Earth with her despite having his own home and family back in space, who he in essence abandoned just to be with Kitty and the X-Men team. Lockheed appeared as an Easter egg of sorts in New Mutants, being Illyana's imaginary friend in puppet form, who turned out really actually existed. This also was a fun nod considering that Lockheed also happened to match the description of a creature from a fairy tale story in the comics that Kitty had told Illyana before she ended up being kidnapped and in space. New Mutants, however, exists outside of MCU canon, so this appearance does not count. Lockheed was also once an agent of S.W.O.R.D. in the comics, so there are a few opportunities when it comes to how he could show up in the MCU, either with the mutants or with S.W.O.R.D. And think of all the merch and Lockheed plushies we could get if he did. I want all the Lockheed merch. Number 4. Annihilus. Annihilus is weird in the most comic book way for a villain. He hails from the Negative Zone and is also insectoid in appearance, like so many others on our list. Annihilus basically has a cosmic magic wand, if you will, known as the Cosmic Control Rod, that he used in his attempt to take over the Negative Zone. In more recent appearances, however, Annihilus actually usually chooses to wear this rod as sort of a protective accessory, using it to protect him against naturally occurring dangers such as aging, heat, and cold, in addition to gaining the ability to fly through space. I mean, at the end of the day, Annihilus is like kind of an insect, so he needs to be protected against those things. He also initially became a villain of the Fantastic Four because they borrowed the Cosmic Rod to help treat the Invisible Woman during her pregnancy. Though admittedly, they did return the Cosmic Rod, so I don't know why Annihilus is so angry. I guess if you need something to live though, you'd be like, hey, don't just take that. Number 3. Galactus. When you think about it, Galactus is a pretty weird villain. He's basically a giant man who can fly through the vacuum of space, although he usually prefers to do so from within his own even more enormous spaceship, because I guess he likes having his things with him, who wears a very large hat, has much hunger, and as a result, basically eats planets. Oh, and he's also basically a universal constant, meaning that without his existence, the universe is kind of thrown off balance. Despite being an antagonist, you also kind of need him to exist, or at least, I mean, you used to need him. I don't really know what's happening with that. Recently, Galactus got dusted in a fight involving the Black Winter and Thor, and the universe still seems to be existing without too much disruption right now. But even that is weird, because if we established how Galactus is basically a necessary evil earlier, you'd think his death would cause things to get pretty wonky pretty quickly. Although, to be fair to Donny Cates' current Thor series, that's likely coming in due time, because it was kind of hinted at that, yeah, killing Galactus may have been a bad move. Number 2. Impossible Man. Impossible Man is one of my all-time favorite weirdos from the cosmic realm of Marvel Comics. He's kind of like Marvel's equivalent of DC's fifth dimensional imp, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Impossible Man hails from the planet Pop-Up and is known as a Pop-Upian. He is often depicted as being more a misguided villain than a malicious one. For the most part, he gets into trouble with heroes because of a misunderstanding or because of kind of his love for pranking. Like Mr. Mixie, he is sometimes an ally to the heroes who he has also been known to torment, and is known for being pretty intensely powerful, I'd say, having molecular manipulation powers which allow him to change his form, shapeshift, and even duplicate himself. Also, he's got a very goofy design that honestly reminds me of a cross between Mr. Mixie and the Coneheads, and I love it. Number 1. Zemnu. Definitely one of the weirdest weirdos out there for me. Even his name sounds so cosmically weird and fantastic. Zemnu. Reminds me of Xanadu, although not at all related to that 80s Olivia Newton-John fantasy musical classic, to clarify. Sadly, I wish Zemnu was Xanadu themed villain. What would that even be like? I don't know. I'm here for it. Zemnu with like some roller skates on. Zemnu is a Hulk villain. He was an alien cyborg prisoner who escaped from exile only to crash land on Earth. Already that sounds pretty wild. But hey, it gets weirder. Zemnu initially hoped to control the minds of the people of Earth and get them to build him a new spaceship, one that was so powerful that its launch would actually in essence destroy Earth. Zemnu is a psionic being who can hypnotize his victims and control their minds. He can also use hosts to kinda heal himself, in essence transforming their body into his until there's nothing resembling them or their mind left. Even stranger, Zemnu was technically the first character to be known as the Hulk before the creation of the Bruce Banner turned green giant version of the character, which is even weirder to think about. Zemnu's OG Hulk. Number 10. Medusa. Medusa is known as being the wife of Black Bolt, or one of the wives, but she's kind of the main one. The one Black Bolt really relies on when it comes to helping him rule the Inhumans. She and Black Bolt are basically the king and queen of the Inhuman city of Attilan. She is able to speak to her husband telepathically, but this is not where her powers lie. Her strength comes from her fighting skills and her trichokinesis powers, which allow her to control her hair and use her hair strands as a weapon. Hair fighting. Medusa's hair is super strong and can also be manipulated as though it were a whip. We've seen her use it like a rope to restrain people, reinforce herself, and to lift other things. Add in the fact that Medusa is quite skilled when it comes to wielding her terrifyingly long and powerful locks, and she can prove to be a mighty enemy in battle. Number 9. Star-Lord. Star-Lord in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is known for being half Terran or human and half living planet, I guess? We learn in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that Star-Lord aka Peter Quill is actually the son of Ego, the living planet. However, in the comics, Star-Lord's dad is someone else entirely, although Peter still remains half alien by birth due to his father's identity. In the comics, Peter Quill is the son of Jason of Spartax, a prince of Spartax whose father was the Emperor. At one point, in fact, Peter would end up ruling Spartax after his girlfriend at the time, Kitty Pryde, used her powers enhanced by the Black Vortex to save the planet. Peter grew up not knowing of his true heritage, as Jason had erased his mother's memories of ever meeting his father to spare her the pain of him leaving, not knowing that they had conceived a child together.
You are the father!
But even without knowledge of his heritage, Peter has always been pretty spacey, often known for being the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. Number 8. Novar. Novar is also known as Marvel Boy. He is a Kree from the alternate reality of Earth 2000. So many zeros. He is a Kree from the alternate reality of Earth 200080. He was one of the crewmates aboard the Marvel, a ship whose crew was tasked with a peacekeeping mission aiming to maintain a ceasefire between the Kree and Skrull of their reality. After finding their ship was lost in the multiverse, they ended up being shot down and crash landed on Earth 616's Earth. Novar was the sole survivor of the crash. Originally, Novar blamed all humans for the death of his crew and his parents, who were also aboard. However, over time the other heroes were able to convince him to abandon his quest for revenge and join them instead in protecting the planet. Eventually he would come to be an ally and member of the Young Avengers. He is a hero who is known for his intelligence, especially when it comes to Kree tech, his fighting skills, speed, durability, and strength. He also has been known to use equipment such as Plex, the knowledgeable living database that once belonged to his ship, and his own set of negabands, given to him by the Supreme Intelligence. Number 7. Brainiac. Brainiac is a famous villain known for shrinking the city of Kandor on Superman's homeworld of Krypton. He comes from the planet Kolu. He is brilliant but also fairly weak when it comes to, swinging punches. In one iteration, he could not even leave his spaceship for fear of being killed from all the diseases and illnesses on planet Earth's surface, as his immune system was low when it came to Earthborn illnesses. As time has progressed, however, Brainiac moved from being a lesser-known cosmic plot device to a bona fide supervillain. He even at one point attempted to strengthen himself dramatically after finding out his current body was dying. Brainiac plotted to possess Doomsday's body as his own. Well, this plot was eventually foiled. For a time, this merging of Brainiac's mind and Doomsday's body made him one of the most powerful beings in the universe. For a little while. Fortunately, it all got foiled. Dang it. Too powerful. Number 6. Phoenix Force. The Phoenix Force is both a terrifying and kind cosmic entity. The terror it induces, in fact, truly only exists because it is so powerful, and often many are unable to contain its power, eventually becoming corrupted and evil as a result. The Phoenix Force itself, however, has often seemed selective in regards to who would grant power to, although it did seem like not super picky when it bonded with Thanos' son Thane, who was just about to die at the time. I don't really know why else it picked Thane. I mean, I guess Thane's kinda cool. Is he cool? I don't know. You let me know in the comments. Do you think Thane is cool? The Phoenix itself has seemed to always prefer Jean Grey as a host when it has the option, but it will settle for others who it feels has a certain amount of potential. The Phoenix has always allowed its hosts insanely destructive powers. If used for such, it has been known to destroy entire planets. There's a lot of planet destroyers in the cosmos I'm noticing a pattern. Number 5. Anti-Monitor. Anti-Monitor represents everything antimatter and evil. There are a few different stories that explain where he comes from, but in essence, his existence is tied to the multiverse. Both he and his heroic counterpart Monitor are in fact tied to the multiverse themselves. Anti-Monitor has been shown as a comic villain who strives to end all of the alternate worlds within DC, and he and the Monitor are often referred to as the ones who shook everything up dramatically for us in the DC comic book world, originally during the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline. Anti-Monitor has been perceived as one of the most unstoppable foes the DC heroes have encountered when it comes to his powers. He has reality warping powers, which he used to remove Psycho Pirate's face, and he can absorb the energy around him, even managing to use this ability to suck dry entire universes. Not just worlds, entire universes! He's like, I'll take that alternate, I'll take that alternate, I want some fries with that, delicious.
In it for Ultron 1. This is probably the most insanely overpowered version of Ultron that we have ever seen before, and it's coming from the MCU no less. Oh, and spoiler alert for those who aren't caught up on the What If Disney Plus series, but I mean, it's been out for a while, so it's your own fault. The history of Earth TRN 906 was the same as the MCU until Ultron was able to secure what would have been Vision's body for himself. Ultron managed to download his consciousness into the synthetic body that he had created, thus killing the Avengers and decimating life on Earth. After killing Thanos and taking the Infinity Stones for himself, Ultron remakes the universe in his image. He decimated the Earth, absolutely wrecking everyone in it. He even killed Captain Marvel, Hulk, and Thor, and eventually discovered the Watcher and the multiverse. This version of Ultron literally sliced Thanos in half with the Mind Stone, which revealed that the biggest mistake that anyone made in the MCU was destroying the Mind Stone. But after gaining all of the Infinity Stones, he goes shot for shot with the Watcher, who is a literal cosmic entity that shouldn't really have a true corporeal form, but yeah, hot damn, this is overpowered to the max. This dude is, yeah. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk possessed reality warping powers, with which he enjoys tormenting Superman, or making life difficult for him, but I mean, come on, okay, this dude's getting on this list. His portrayal has been varied, with him being an outright supervillain sometimes, an anti-hero others, but in most of Mxyzptlk's appearances in DC Comics, he can be stopped by tricking him into saying or spelling his own name backwards, which sends him back to the 5th dimension. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. And then he has to stay there for at least 90 days. That's 3 months, bro. Come on. Okay, what is this, the American justice system? Put him back for longer. But after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he had a new requirement that needed to be met in order for him to be sent back, such as Superman getting him to paint his own face blue. I don't know why, but like, this is one of the few villains that uses Superman's other weakness, magic, against him instead of just kryptonite. But like, come on. Okay, this guy just has the ability to warp reality and do whatever he wants. And then since he comes from the 5th dimension, he isn't bound by the laws of 3-dimensional beings. Whatever that means. I guess this dude sees polka dots as like 3rd dimension stripes. Also, bro, what's with your name? Okay, I get that it's supposed to be hard to say, so it's hard to say backwards, but cut a guy some slack. You're not Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, just chill. But ultimately, in at number 2, Galactiac. A combination of Brainiac and Galactus, the seemingly ageless entity known as Galactiac is the ultimate synthesis of mind and machine. He traverses the farthest reaches of space within the Amalgam Universe, draining the lifeblood of planets in order to recharge his energy cells. But Galactiac does not completely obliterate the planets that he raises. Rather, he always miniaturizes a section of each planet to preserve and to study. Ben Grimm from the Challengers of the Fantastic attempted to destroy Galactiac's machinery, but Grimm's actions merely succeeded in gaining gaining Galactiac's attention and arousing his wrath. Galactiac used his cosmic powers to transform Grimm into the monstrous four-armed thing, which was a mindless minion devoted entirely to Galactiac. Meanwhile, the Guardian had transported Johnny Stormtrooper into the body of the Galactiac in order to destroy the planet-devouring menace from within, which is just nuts. His first appearance was in the Challengers of the Fantastic #1 in 1997, and honestly, this is one of the scariest beings in the Amalgam universe, okay? Brainiac and Galactus are already powerful on their own, but combined, sweet heavens to Betsy, no thank you. And finally, in at #1, Brothers. The Brothers stand as cosmic beings representing the DC and the Marvel universes, symbolizing the vast multiverses that embody them. These entities possess such immense power that even the Living Tribunal and the Spectre pale in comparison. While referred to as brothers, they transcend traditional gender roles because, you know, they're just gods. They're literally just the universe's anthropomorphized, okay? During the dawn of existence, they were just chilling, okay? They were like entirely everything save for each other, and they're actually villains within the Amalgam universe storyline. What the hell? You are literally fighting your universe. Do you understand how stupid that is? I mean, it's kind of stupid in a good way, but also stupid in like a what the hell, who would have thought of this kind of way. I mean, I love it, but yeah.
Number 10, Captain Marvel. Marvel is known for being one of Marvel's premier superheroes. Unfortunately, he's dead now. But before that, he became a hero of Earth after coming to the world initially on a spy mission. However, even before Marvel arrived, he was an Earth sympathizer, and spending more time among the people of Earth only made him more so. On multiple occasions, he actually betrayed the orders he was given out of his love for the people of Earth, who he refused to let come to harm. As a result, Marvel was almost executed, but fortunately, he survived. He would later return to Earth multiple times, fighting for the planet as one of its strongest and most capable heroes, despite his Kree heritage. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button? Number 9, Ariel. Ariel is an alien mutant from the Coconut Grove. Ariel was actually sent from the planet to Earth in the hopes of retrieving mutants that could be used for her people to study. Mutants in their culture had become extremely rare, and they were looking for a way to encourage genetic evolution once more among their people. Ariel, however, did not know of her own mutant origin, and after successfully retrieving some mutants, was also captured by those who had sent her on the mission, instead of being paid. It was at this point that Ariel turned from antagonist to protagonist, joining up with the fellow mutants she had previously captured to help them escape. Ariel even later on joined up with the mutant heroes in San Francisco, becoming herself a member of the X-Men for a time. Number 8, Cadre K. The Cadre K were actually a group of basically Skrull X-Men. They were made up of mutant Skrulls that were trained by Charles Xavier, aka Professor X. He trained them in an effort to empower them to fight against the Skrull Empire in an effort to push for mutant rights and free other fellow Skrull mutants, like themselves. Cadre K get their name from how they are categorized by other Skrulls, as K-class deviant Skrulls. The members of the team included Fizz, Sponjay, Zakan, Gorath, Neuro, and Reti, with Professor X acting as their leader up until his death during Avengers vs. X-Men. In the aftermath, they sought to simply live out their days peacefully, hidden as humans in South Dakota. In fact, they even lived on a ranch with the Skrulls, who had been permanently made to live out their days as Earth cows by Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. Remember them? The Cadre K decided to keep them around and basically look after them, which is kind of really nice.
Number 7, Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is easily one of the strongest of Marvel's cosmic heroes. He can do some absolutely insane things, and he has had some massively impressive fights. But one of the ones that I think shows just how powerful he is would be his first ever fight against Null, the symbiote god. At the start of 2018's Guardians of the Galaxy series by Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw, the Silver Surfer was swallowed in a black hole that transported him billions of years into the past, landing him in Silver Surfer Black. At the beginning of time, Silver Surfer faced Null in battle when the symbiote god was just beginning to rise in power, and it was one hell of a fight. Null proved to be an extremely difficult opponent, which we know he is from his fight against literally all of Earth's heroes. Silver Surfer was going to the extent of his power trying to defeat Null in combat, and Null is still getting the best of him using All Black, the Necro Sword, and his other symbiotes. With Surfer on the ropes facing off against the God of Darkness, he uses the last little bits of his power cosmic that he has to create an entirely new sun point blank in front of Null's creepy little face. While he knows it doesn't defeat Null permanently, it does defeat him for the time being, and it's just super awesome. Number 6. Superman. In Superman number 127, we are introduced to Titano the Super Ape. Now he started off as a smart ape named Toto that was sent into space, but then was accidentally exposed to radiation from 2 colliding meteors. Now this, for some reason, grew Toto into a massive King Kong style ape who was now named Titano, and it also gave Titano the ability to fire rays of green kryptonite out of his eyes. I don't know. Obviously that is a big problem for Superman, who couldn't really get in close to this super cryptovision ape. But luckily, Superman's girlfriend is able to trick Titano into wearing lead sunglasses that stop the kryptonite rays, at which point Superman just picked up the giant super ape and threw him back through time. Superman chucked his super monkey through time back to the prehistoric era where he could interact with dinosaurs. Yes, Superman is so strong that he can literally throw things through time. He's also thrown Jimmy Olsen through time before, but who cares? This is a giant ape. Number 5. Franklin Richards. While he may not be considered entirely a cosmic level superhero, Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, is destined to become a key factor in the cosmic landscape of the Marvel Universe. His power to warp reality is so great that he has created entire pocket universes. Now in one reality, appearing in Fantastic Four Volume 1 number 604, Franklin appeared as an adult, and we saw a glimpse of just how powerful he can be. In the story, a grown Franklin and Valeria Richards worked together with their grandfather Nathaniel Richards to travel into the past to influence their younger counterparts and to help fight against the mad Celestials that were threatening the entire world. Galactus was called on by the Fantastic Four to help, and although he brought down one Celestial, the others combined their power and were too much for Galactus to handle. Enter Franklin. Restoring Galactus and imbuing him with enough cosmic energy to stand up to the Celestials, Franklin turned Galactus into his own herald, defeating the Celestials and then being humble enough to give up that power after the fight was over. All the other heroes could do was just look up into the sky and watch in awe. It was actually kinda epic. Number 4. John Stewart Green Lantern. A Green Lantern's power ring is capable of almost anything, but even it has its limits. However, that didn't stop John Stewart from attempting to recreate an entire solar system in Green Lantern number 26. When reflecting on the destruction of the planet Zanshi and its solar system, which is an event that John blames himself for, the hero tried his damnedest to try and bring the world back with just his ring. He broke past the programming of his ring and got pretty damn close to completely rebuilding the entire solar system. Unfortunately, such a construct was too much even with John's iron will, but the fact that he got so close shows how far a power ring can really go when effort is put into it. But let's try one even more than that, shall we? Yeah. Number 3. Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was possibly the greatest Green Lantern ever, according to the comics at least. But in the 90s, that kinda changed. After the death of Superman and the subsequent reign of the Supermen, Coast City, Hal Jordan's home, was destroyed. This completely changed the Lantern, and he completely broke the programming of his own power ring to revive the city. He created the entire city's layout with all of its buildings, parks, streets, everything. But it wasn't quite right. It wasn't the same. It needed life. So Hal went completely against the Green Lantern's rules and made constructs of all the once living inhabitants of Coast City, millions of people. When the Guardians of the Universe tried to stop him, he completely snapped. He went off the handle, ending the lives of every Green Lantern and naming himself Parallax. Hal became a threat to the whole DC universe for like a decade before eventually sacrificing himself. Sure, he went bad, but he absolutely did not hold back against anyone. Number 2. Orion. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father, Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none, and in one of his many displays of pure power, he completely wipes out his father. When Darkseid came to Earth, heroes like the Atom and an empowered Jimmy Olsen fought him until a boom tube opened up and Orion came out. The heroes stood aside and let Orion fight Darkseid on his own, and he absolutely wrecked the guy in one slog of a fight. At the end of the fight, after beating down on Darkseid to the level of wiping out entire city blocks, Orion wiped out Darkseid by plunging his hand straight into his father's chest, grabbing his fiery heart and ripping it out clean, leaving Darkseid as a pile of charred bones. And finally, in at number 1 today, the Sentry. Near the end of the Planet Hulk storyline, the shuttle the Hulk was sent to Sakaar in by the Illuminati at the beginning blows up, wiping out Hulk's new family and the lives of millions of individuals on Sakaar. This pushes the Hulk into a whole new level of anger, which is directed squarely at the Illuminati. So, he headed to Earth with his war sworn. When he got to Earth, after quickly stopping at the moon to wreck Black Bolt, he headed to New York, giving the city a time limit to be evacuated, and when that time limit stopped, he defeated everyone who was left. Iron Man and the Hulkbuster, the Avengers plus their tower, the US Army, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Juggernaut, Doctor Strange using the power of Zom, and the Ghost Rider, all while saving innocent bystanders. He then threw the Illuminati members he captured into the ring against each other, sparing them only as he sought justice, not to end lives. Well, the Illuminati had one last-ditch effort to stop the Hulk. The Sentry. Coming in against probably the only being who could take it, Sentry unleashed almost everything he had against the Hulk, leveling city blocks and causing a massive column of fire. These two went blow for blow over and over until they both used up so much energy that they reverted back to their regular human forms, with a depowered Bruce Banner getting in a final punch to bring Sentry down. Number 10, Flash Gordon. Dun 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 dun. Flash! Savior of the universe! Well, Alex Raymond created Flash Gordon in 1934 solely to compete with another futuristic space hero, Buck Rogers. The character set itself apart as Flash's adventures took him farther and farther into the strange worlds and locations of space. The handsome polo-playing Earthling was transported to an alien world dealing with the rule of a horrible evil ruler, Ming the Merciless. Flash became a hero to the world of Mongo, fighting alongside characters like Prince Vultan of the Hawkmen and Prince Baron, the displaced ruler of Mongo, to overthrow the villainous Ming. In the 1950s, Flash became an astronaut who traveled to other planets besides Mongo. Using starships that can travel faster than light, the long story of the Scorpio War takes Flash to other star systems. Flash and friends also fought a bunch of other villains, including Azura, the Witch Queen, Brucka, chieftain of the Giants of Phrygia, the Red Sword organization on Earth, and Brazor, the tyrannical usurper of Tropica. His story and adventures only carry on with other writers and into that really campy but awesome movie. Number 9, Green Lantern. Though many characters have held the title of Green Lantern, none is as iconic as Hal Jordan. Hal was a test pilot who found a dying alien, Abin Sur, in the wreckage of a crashed spaceship who was a member of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic police force that wielded strange power rings. In his dying moments, Abin Sur passed his ring on to Hal Jordan, drafting him into the Corps and granting him the power to create anything his mind could envision, so long as he remained totally honest and completely fearless. Although Hal Jordan's assigned sector of the universe includes Earth, it also includes about 33 other planets, all of which need his and his other Green Lanterns' help. And that's not including the whole rest of the universe, which also falls under the care of the Green Lantern Corps as a whole. Hal Jordan has had many ups and downs as a character, even at one time betraying the Green Lantern Corps and eventually giving his life to redeem himself. Don't you worry, he eventually returned to life in Jeff Johns' landmark miniseries Green Lantern Rebirth, which I highly recommend you read. Number 8. Captain Marvel, an alien warrior named Mar-Vell, whose adventures eventually brought him to Earth and into the path of the Avengers, was the individual who would first go by the name Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics. Wielding a pair of energy-wielding negabands, and with the ever-useful cosmic awareness, Mar-Vell found himself voyaging through strange worlds in an iconic example of the way-out superhero space stories taking place at Marvel Comics in the 70s. Though Mar-Vell passed away due to cancer in the early 1980s, the Captain Marvel name did not. Monica Rambeau was the second person to hold the title in the comics after Mar-Vell. Monica's powers are truly extraordinary. She can transform herself into any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum, such as light or X-rays. She can also use that energy to fly through space at the speed of light, generate energy beams, become intangible, and more. She was even powerful enough to stop the symbiote god Null during his first invasion. The most recent holder of the Captain Marvel title, however, would be Carol Danvers. She began her career as Miss Marvel in 1977's Miss Marvel #1 after meeting Mar-Vell in 1968's Marvel Superheroes #13, and he exposed her to the energies that transformed her into a human Kree hybrid. And her powers have evolved significantly since her debut. She can generate energy blasts of varying scope as well as absorb energy attacks that are extremely volatile. Captain Marvel is also generally invulnerable to magic and, in the recent comics, is even exploring using magic herself, making her even more powerful.
Number 7. Hepzibah. Hepzibah is a member of the Starjammers, who also became Corsair's romantic partner, as well as partner in space pirate adventures. Corsair, by the way, is Chris Summers, Cyclops, Havoc, and Vulcan's dad. Hepzibah hails from one of the many planets that were under Shi'ar rule. In fact, this is essentially how she first met Corsair and joined up with the Starjammers as one of its founding members. Her home planet, Trilsart, being under Shi'ar rule, meant when she was arrested, she ended up in one of the Shi'ar prisons. It was here she met Corsair, who had been apprehended and imprisoned by Emperor Deken himself. The two joined up, escaped, and the Starjammers were born. Number 6. Xandra. Xandra is the daughter of Professor X and Magistrix Lilandra Narimani. She is basically a Shi'ar princess who now is the ruler of this empire, taking the place of Gladiator and becoming the true-born ruler as the daughter of Lilandra. Xandra, as such, is not just an alien, but a mutant alien, inheriting her X gene from her father's side. Like Charles, she is also an extremely powerful telepath, and could even be considered more powerful than him, possibly Omega level. And if not Omega yet, considering she is younger, I could see her as having the potential of becoming Omega in the future. Recently, when her life was in danger while facing the secret organization of the Shi'ar Kin Crimson in the depths of space alongside the Marauders, she was able to successfully reach out across the cosmos to her father, and as a result could be resurrected as he was able to save a copy of her mind in its present state. Number 5. Gladiator. Much of Gladiator's past remains unknown to us, but we do know for sure that he is an alien. That much is definitely confirmed to be true. It is believed that he grew up on Strontia, a planet that would become a part of the Shi'ar Empire. While living there, he trained, competing alongside other warriors on his world to earn the title of Gladiator. He, along with 9 others, were chosen by the Shi'ar to become gladiators, with the strongest and most capable among them to earn a place on the Imperial Guard. A test was given to them, with Calark being the only among them to complete it, and returning to the Magister, claiming that he was also the only one to actually survive. As a result, he was made Praetor of the Imperial Guard. Calark would also go on to not only become a cosmic superhero and earn his place on the Imperial Guard, but to also for a time be named as the ruler of the Shi'ar Empire. Number 4. Venom. While Eddie Brock, Dylan Brock, and Flash Thompson may all be heroes who share an Earth-based origin, the symbiote identified as Venom does not. All symbiotes are Clintar, hailing from the planet often referred to by the same name, made up of all the symbiotes combined, a big ball of hive mind symbiotic goo. Venom was ostracized from his homeworld a long time ago, but would eventually return to it in order to be purified, as the symbiote's life away had led to them slowly being corrupted over time by some less altruistic figures that the symbiote had bonded with. Number 3. Thor. While many think of Thor as being a god of Norse mythology, he's also an alien. That's right, at least as far as Marvel's narrative for the public domain hero goes. In their version of the tale, Asgard basically exists in space, with the Rainbow Bridge being a way for the Asgardians to teleport to Earth. Thor himself is the son of Odin and originally Gaia, but possibly now the Phoenix Force? The weird thing is, although it feels weird to potentially make the Phoenix Thor's mom, Thor's origins are so cosmic in origin that the cosmic element of Phoenix at least would fit with his story. He speaks like a man at a time, but really he is a man out of space. Well, out of space and kinda out of time, since Thor is also centuries old, and at this point has actually lived multiple lives. So Thor isn't just a god, he's a cosmic space god. Number 2. Hulkling. Hulkling is another one that we more associate with Earth, but in reality, he's actually from outer space, having come to Earth when he was but an infant. He was brought here in order to be protected. He was not safe on the Skrull homeworld as a result of his heritage, being half Kree and half Skrull, the son of the Skrull princess Enel and the Kree champion Captain Marvel. He was raised as such, not knowing of his true heritage, by his Skrull foster mother, one of Enel's handmaidens. Both he and his adoptive mother adopted a human form as he grew up on Earth. Eventually, he would reveal himself to have powers and join the Young Avengers, only later learning the true origin of his shapeshifting abilities, that he was in fact a Skrull, and even later learning that he was heir to the throne and the key to stopping the long war between the Kree and Skrull as a claim to rule with heritage from both sides. Hulkling would accept this responsibility, however, becoming Emperor Hulkling, also known as Doric VIII, and later as Doric Vel. Number 1. Silver Surfer. When it comes to heroes at Marvel Comics that come from outer space, there can be no one more iconic than Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is so outer space, I feel like I see stars when I look at him. And to be honest, it's probably because he's usually surfing past them in the comics. It's usually in the background, often being most at home in terms of his artistic style out in the brilliant cosmos. I mean, he's literally a silver man on a silver surfboard, flying through space. But even before Silver Surfer was Silver Surfer, he was Norrin Radd, a man who grew up on the planet of Zen-La, an extremely technologically advanced world where Norrin himself was raised to be a scientist. When Galactus came knocking at the planet's door seeking to devour the world to satiate his hunger, Norrin offered himself up in exchange for his homeworld's safety. He agreed to become Galactus' herald and help him find other planets that he could devour instead, journeying across the cosmos with him if Galactus agreed to leave Zen-La be. Galactus did agree to these terms, and the hero and herald of Galactus, known as the Silver Surfer, was born. Number 10. Crystal. Honestly, Crystal does not get enough appreciation and acknowledgement here, so I figured since Inhumans are technically considered to be cosmic and all, what with them living for a time on the blue area of the moon where their home of Attilan was moved to, and often getting involved in cosmic intergalactic conflicts, I figured why not use this opportunity to talk about Crystal, her powers and abilities, and why they are so cool. While Crystal might not have access to an avatar state, she basically has all of the skills and abilities of the avatar. She can control and manipulate the 4 elements on a molecular level, controlling oxygen to make fire spontaneously appear. She can combine hydrogen and oxygen to create water or rain. She can manipulate the movement of air. She can cause earthquakes to happen, and has even on occasion managed to affect the position of tectonic plates. The limits of her powers lie in the amount of area or volume of an element that she can control at one time. Also, using her powers does tend to wear her out, so she's really best at performing in shorter battles or ones that are not as demanding on her abilities. Still, even though she is often overshadowed by her sister Medusa and often her brother-in-law as well, Black Bolt, her abilities are still pretty impressive. Number 9. Night Mask. Night Mask is also known as Adam Blackveil, or sometimes just Blackveil. He was the first being created by Ex Nihilo, one of the gardeners who worked alongside the Builders to create new and perfect life throughout the galaxy, and refurbishing existing beings, transforming them into something better. Considered to be a perfect being, Night Mask has powers which allow him to teleport from anywhere to anywhere else in space, even potentially moving through or to alternate worlds, by creating portals and utilizing the extra-dimensional place known as the Superflow to cover vast distances. The Superflow is basically like the space between universes, where concepts and dreams are said to originate. Kind of like a cosmic shortcut, if you will. He can also communicate with almost any technological device and bend that device to his will, reprogramming it easily to serve his own purpose. Night Mask also has the ability to use his energy halos to emit blasts of destructive energy, so he's not too shabby in a fight neither. Number 8. Mar-Vell. Mar-Vell was not only powerful for the tech he wielded, but he also has had a wealth of powers that have seemed to surface and then weirdly disappear over time. He has used his Uni-Beam, worn and been strengthened and protected by Negabands, and has various other gadgets that he's able to utilize in battle. He's been shown to be fast enough to dodge bullets and has increased strength while on Earth due to Earth's gravitational pull being less intense than what he's used to. He's also had his powers enhanced over the years, now and then making him insanely powerful, like when he was protector of the universe and also had cosmic awareness. Is that how gravity works? If the pull is less, you're stronger, right? Because you're used to on your world, like having to fight gravity. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Science. Number 7. Wraith. Zack Dell in truth is really more anti-hero than full-out hero, but he's super cool and we don't talk about him enough, so I'm willing to extend the reaches of the parameters of this list to include him. Zack Dell was Kree born but ended up being estranged from his family after they were killed by a Kree death squad, led by a mysterious figure. He himself at least was not murdered, but instead was propelled outward into space, left drifting helplessly. Eventually he ran into a subspace of the Kree who had become trapped in a wormhole and exposed to space parasites known as the Exelon. These Kree called themselves the Nameless. They stabbed Zack Dell upon finding him so that he too would be exposed to the Exelon and also become one of the Nameless. He hasn't always been bonded to the Exelon, but while bonded, received enhanced strength, energy manipulation, the ability to inspire intense fear in his opponents, and regenerative capabilities. Wraith even managed to use his powers to make the Phalanx feel fear, which is pretty impressive. Number 6. Moondragon. Moondragon was once a human girl known as Heather Douglas. After being nearly killed by Thanos, who had come across her and her family while they were driving out in the desert, she was rescued by Mentor. Seeking to make amends for his son's murderous ways, he took Heather to Titan and gave her to the Shaolin monks to be brought up. There, she would grow into the powerful telepathic and telekinetic hero known as Moondragon. Heather's father would also survive this attack by being reborn as the being known as Drax the Destroyer. Moondragon has been shown to possess telepathic strength great enough to possess millions of people at once, and can deliver a mind blast strong enough to take out the Hulk. Number 5. Black Bolt. Black Bolt is the king and ruler of the Inhumans. You might be wondering why I even included him and his wife Medusa on this list. How are Inhumans spacey, you might wonder? Well, not only have Inhumans been involved in various different galactic matters involving various planets and empires, but for a time they actually called space their home, with their city of Attilan residing in the blue area of the moon. Black Bolt himself is known for being one of the most powerful of the Inhumans. Through Terrigenesis, he unlocked the power of his voice. The speech center in his brain gives him the power to harness electrons using his voice, which basically means he can blow you apart with a shout or blow you away with a whisper. Black Bolt himself is also a modicum telepathic and uses his telepathic powers to communicate with others like Medusa and to shield himself from psychic attack.
Number 4. Orion of the New Gods. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the new gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none. While undercover on Apocalypse, he was the greatest warrior and would have slaughtered the entire army during training, quote unquote. He has held open the hand of the god of strength and might who was threatening creation and ripping holes in reality with his strength. He stands against and fights a sun-amped Superman one-on-one, something no one else in the Justice League was able to do. And he can tank star system destroying explosions, so there's that. Orion moves with the speed of thought. His intelligence was enough that he created the Genesis box, which can destroy and rebuild a universe. He can grow to any size, move through time, has a healing factor, super senses, and wields the Astro Force, which does a hell of a lot on top of everything, but as an example, it once sealed holes in reality and knocked out Superman in a single shot. And that's all just Orion holding back and not using his true power called the Source of the Beast. But I think we can all agree Orion is the beast here. Number 3. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is one of the most powerful cosmic characters, maybe not just in Marvel Comics. He was the keeper of the Soul Gem, and beyond the powers that comes with, which allowed him to pass back and forth into the Soul World, he is immortal, able to regenerate himself and gain new powers using a cocoon, and can manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale. Warlock was created by a group of researchers who called themselves the Enclave. Their goal was to create the perfect human being, the pinnacle of future human evolution. The creature they had created emerged and immediately sensed that something was not quite poppin' with his creators. They wanted to use him for evil, so he escaped and became Space Jesus in the Marvel Universe, and there is no other appropriate title for him. I don't care what you say. He has destroyed and rebuilt reality, is the avatar of life, and has even become the living tribunal, otherwise known as the Judge of the Universe. Number 2. Divinity from Valiant Comics. Abram Adams, otherwise known as Divinity, is an incredibly powerful godlike hero who appears in Valiant Comics. He's a lot like Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, who may be coming up later, I don't know. His power is so great that he is basically a god. Knowing full well the impact his actions could have, he doesn't really involve himself in human level issues, letting us instead learn from the mistakes we naturally make, which we rarely seem to do. Abram came into his power after joining the army of the Soviet Union and taking on a 30-year-long mission into deep space. Abrams and his partners came upon a planet at the end of the galaxy, or beyond, called the Unknown. After removing his helmet, Abram Adams breathed in the air of the unknown and was changed. The powers bestowed upon Divinity are as such: chronokinesis, which is the ability to manipulate time, forced evolution and de-evolution, energy manipulation, molecular manipulation, reality warping, flight, solar flare and heat vision, telepathy. He has super senses, can survive in space and other vacuums. Not vacuum cleaners, but I'm sure he'd do fine inside one of those too. And in case you haven't guessed it, he is also immortal. I think of all the heroes on this list, Divinity is easily one of the most powerful. But no, number 1. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John Osterman, also known as Dr. Manhattan, has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen and no longer ages. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale, which puts him comfortably in this list. But more than that, he has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything if he wants to, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium into the future, and he can even see alternate possible futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before the interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52 in DC Comics. In a crazy show of power, John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. He can phase through things, create human life, make plants grow. He has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring, and even absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is basically a cosmic god. So, number 1. Starting off at number 10 today is Null. Null is the literal eldritch god of all symbiotes, their creator. Null existed before the current version of the universe ever even came be, in the black void of nothingness. One of his very first acts after he was awoken by the light created by the formation of the universe was creating the all-black Necrosword. This was the very first symbiote, and it was immensely powerful. Using it, Null was able to slice the head clean off of a Celestial. For this insane feat of power, he was banished to a void where he worked more and more on the sword, and eventually he broke free and went out into the universe with the intent of wiping out various different gods until he was defeated and he lost the sword to Gore the God Butcher. And if we want to talk about villains who should have been more powerful in the MCU, he's top of the list. Null then goes on to make more and more symbiotes, all share a hive mind under the control of Null. They eventually rebel and imprison Null inside the symbiote homeworld Clintar, which is actually symbiote for Cage. He's one of the strongest villains Marvel Comics has shown us. He faced off against all the Earth's heroes and nearly won. He has awoken, enslaved, and controlled Celestials and even defeated the Sentry, ripping him in half and absorbing the Void. The only thing that defeated him was Eddie Brock's Venom, wielding the Unipower, aka Captain Universe, the protector of the universe and the opposite to everything that Null represents. Number 9. Abraxas. Abraxas is the polar opposite of the cosmic entity known as Eternity. This essentially means his whole reason for existing is to destroy all of the multiverse, which, I'll be honest, there are a few different characters in Marvel who exist for that very reason. And funnily enough, a bunch of them are on this list. Abraxas is also tied to the incredibly unstoppable cosmic entity Galactus. Whenever Galactus would consume a planet, it would keep Abraxas in check. So, when Galactus was actually destroyed in a story called Galactus the Devourer, Abraxas was released and begins his path of ultimate destruction. As a cosmic entity, Abraxas' powers are essentially limitless, and his whole existence is kind of important to the universe, which means he can't really be taken out like a normal villain would be. So, the question of how he was defeated is kind of important. In Fantastic Four number 48 to number 50, we learned of an incredibly powerful tool called the Ultimate Nullifier. It was used back then to threaten Galactus and stop him from destroying the Earth. Reed Richards ended up using the Ultimate Nullifier to essentially rewrite reality, remaking it so that Abraxas just never existed. Abraxas is so unstoppable that we essentially needed a Deus Ex Machina to defeat him. Number 8. The Chaos King. Amatsu Mikubashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, is the Japanese god Chaos, evil, and an aspect of the cosmic being known as Oblivion. Mikubashi ruled and thrived over the Earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness, and as such, his goal now is to bring it back to that age of chaos and void and darkness. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, the Shinto underworld, where he remained for centuries, accruing an army of Oni, Shinma demons, and other monsters. During the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he had defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon after the fall of Asgard during Ragnarok. This is what kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, Celtic gods, Shi'ar gods, and gods of Zen law. He takes out Nightmare in the Dream Dimension, destroys Mephisto somehow, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away, and releases the souls of the damned. He has the power to defeat Eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of someone like Zeus. God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor teamed up together but could not defeat Chaos King. To win, this insanely powerful god of gods, Hercules, had to punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he had already destroyed about 98% of the universe. Number 7. Null. Null existed long before even the Celestials in the 6th incarnation of the multiverse, where he existed in basically nothingness. But when the Celestials created the 7th multiverse, Null was mad that he got woken up, so he created the all-black Necro Sword and beheaded a Celestial. For this insane feat of power, he was banished to a void, where he works on the sword and eventually he goes out into the universe killing various gods until he loses the Necro Sword to Gore the God Butcher after he's defeated by an unnamed god. He then goes on to make more and more symbiotes, yes, like the symbiotes like Venom, who all shared a hive mind under the control of Null. They eventually rebel and imprison Null inside the symbiote homeworld Clintar. In the 2020 King in Black story, Null is brought to Earth and faces off against all the heroes. He's one of the strongest villains in Marvel. He is immortal, super strong, instantly heals, can create an unlimited amount of symbiotes made of the living abyss, some of which have been incredibly powerful on their own, and can control them all. The Silver Surfer had to use all the reserves of the power cosmic to just temporarily stop Null. Thor using the power cosmic and the Thor Force was no match for Null. He was awoken, enslaved, and controlled Celestials, and even defeated Sentry, ripping him in half and absorbing the Void. The only thing that defeated him was Eddie Brock's Venom wielding the Unipower, which is Captain Universe, the protector of the universe, and the opposite to everything pretty much Null represents. Number 6. Urizen. In the world of Image Comics Spawn, Urizen is a dark entity whose status rises above both heaven and hell. He existed since the dawn of time before either of the realms and was initially one of the elder gods of the universe. Urizen existed to provide balance to the universe in life and death. He consumed the souls of the living in order to maintain this balance. Now, as both heaven and hell sought to fight for the souls of the dead in order to wage war against each other, they both saw Urizen as a threat. They weirdly join forces in an act of desperation and seal the Elder God away so that they can keep fighting? I guess? Maybe I'm understanding it wrong, but basically, this primordial being can't be killed or defeated. It takes a literal act of heaven and hell to even lock it away. Once devils from hell unleash Urizen, he begins a rampage in the modern time. As an Elder God, Urizen not only has limitless strength, but he can bend the fabric of reality and time, which is a level of power hard to even understand, really. Even Spawn was defeated in his battle against the entity, but luckily death doesn't really mean anything to him and the undead warrior returns to the fight. But still, there's no way to actually kill Urizen. Spawn's only hope is to seal the Elder God away for another inevitable rampage down the line. Number 5, the Chaos King. While he is relatively obscure, he is nothing to scoff at. Amatsu Mikabashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, is the Japanese god of chaos, evil, and he was an aspect of the cosmic being Oblivion. Mikabashi ruled and thrived over the earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness. And as such, his goal now is to put an end to creation and bring about a new age of chaos and void. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, the Shinto underworld, where he remained for centuries accruing an army of Oni, which is Shinma demons, and other monsters and stuff like that. During the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he had defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon after the fall of Asgard during the Ragnarok event. This is what kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, the Celtic gods, the Shi'ar gods, the gods of Zen law. He takes out Nightmare in the dream dimension, destroys Mephisto, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away. Oh, and he releases the souls of the damned. He has the power to defeat eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of Zeus, God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor could not defeat the Chaos King. To win, Hercules had to punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he had destroyed 98.76% of the universe. Damn. Number 4, Darkseid. In the New 52, Uxas, who would become Darkseid, whispers doubt into the ears of the gods, sending them into a war with each other, which is when he takes them out, and steals their power, making himself the first of the new gods, quote unquote. He has immeasurable strength. He is immortal, nearly invulnerable, surviving an explosion that could destroy existence. He wields the cosmic Omega effect, using Omega beams to hurt Superman and even the Spectre. He can remove people from existence, and using the Omega Sanction, he can trap people in an endless loop of increasingly horrible lives. Telepathically strong enough to control the population of a planet, he can use telekinesis, teleport, control the time stream, and manipulate matter. He's super smart, has advanced technology, and controls Apocalypse and the army of parademons. But almost everything he does is through avatars he creates, because he is the embodiment of evil. He can do anything he wants to and can never truly be defeated except for true form Highfather. Darkseid's motivations are rather simple. Conquer and control all life by unlocking and solving the anti-life equation, something DC fans saw him actually achieve in last summer's Final Crisis. What makes him fun is that he chooses to manipulate events from the shadows, allowing his minions to act on his behalf, which always makes it more fun. Number 3, Dark Phoenix. The Phoenix Force is a multiversal entity that represents the sum total of all life that has ever, currently does, and will ever exist in the multiverse. It has a constant source of power that will pretty much never cease to exist. The young Jean Grey had a friend named Annie who died in a car crash, and when Jean tapped into Annie's dying mind, she was overwhelmed by what it meant to die. She sent out a kind of psychic signal that the Phoenix Force picked up on from space, and that psychic signal showed that Jean was a perfect host for the Phoenix. When they eventually did bond in the Phoenix Saga, they temporarily became the Dark Phoenix after the entity felt intense human emotions like like love and hate and loss, something it never felt before. The Dark Phoenix has immense telepathic and telekinetic abilities, being pure psychic energy. But more importantly, she had control over matter itself. She gives Jason Wingard cosmic awareness, completely overwhelming his brain, and defeats the X-Men hella quick before she flies off across the cosmos, destroys a whole star, dooming an alien race to extinction. She can wipe out the Earth and the solar system easily if she wanted to. The Phoenix is an intense threat and has been involved in so many stories. Number 2, the Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix. And a lot like the Phoenix, Beyonder is basically like a baby, in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain. But as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he grows kinda curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil, and conflict. And to that purpose, he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars. Now he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating battle worlds from the remains and from parts of Earth. So that's one level of power. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal, and he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and grant himself any power he wants. It's more nuanced than that, but it's incredibly difficult to explain, and I only have a limited amount of time, so sorry. Number 1, the Anti-Monitor. The Anti-Monitor was created by Marv Wolfman, George Perez, and Jerry Ordway, and made its debut in DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths series. But his story actually begins billions of years ago with the creation of the multiverse. When a scientist named Krona, who's a guardian of the universe on the Green Lantern world of Oa, tries to use a device that would allow him to witness creation itself, a massive explosion occurs which basically alters the creation of the universe, giving birth to the multiverse. Among the countless alternate realities created in this incident was the Antimatter universe, which is the birthplace of the Anti-Monitor. Now the Anti-Monitor embodies evil and seeks to conquer all of existence, while his brother, the Monitor, embodies goodness and watches over life. But that was changed in the New 52 and then again in DC Rebirth. But I gotta tell you what this character can do. The Anti-Monitor is a being of extraordinary power who feeds on the energies of destroyed universes. Now these energies further increase his power, allowing him to manipulate reality and even travel through time. He can also unleash his energy as bolts or shockwaves to attack his opponents. The Anti-Monitor possesses incredible strength, stamina, and durability, and can even grow to be hundreds of meters tall. He also has an army of shadow demons from the Antimatter universe at his command. However, the extent of the Anti-Monitor's power is dependent on his energy levels, which can be drained in order to weaken him. Still, only another cosmic being like the Monitor or the Spectre is capable of opposing the Anti-Monitor at full power, and even they need help from some of DC's top heroes to put him down for good. Number 10. Blue Marvel. Marvel has several powerhouse characters who are effectively its answers to Superman, and one of those heroes is Hyperion. Ever since the first incarnation of the character debuted in Avengers number 69, Hyperion has been one of the most powerful figures in the Marvel multiverse in all of his forms. But none of those forms have been as destructive or dangerous as King Hyperion, a reality-traveling threat who destroyed entire worlds and their most powerful heroes before making his way into the main Marvel universe. But King Hyperion didn't stand a hope in hell against the Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel Adam Brashear is one of the best Marvel superheroes, one of my favorites, and one of the absolutely undefeatable. He's taken on all the Avengers' entire alien armadas, he has lifted a meteor the size of Arkansas and guided it away, and he's uppercutted the hell out of the Ultimate Universe Hulk. Hyperion says he's defeated Blue Marvels before, but he hasn't faced Earth 616's. While he put Blue Marvel down initially, when Hyperion threatened the innocent bystanders nearby, Blue Marvel found a new strength. Letting loose in a way he hadn't before Therefore, it took 5 blows before Hyperion was out cold and Blue Marvel stood over him victorious. Number 9. Thor and Hyperion. With the end of the multiverse staring down the heroes of the 616 Marvel Universe across the Jonathan Hickman run on Avengers and New Avengers, Thor and a handful of other heroes like Hyperion, Starbrand, Nightmask, Ex Nihilo, and Abyss ventured across the multiverse to confront the Beyonders, responsible for the collapse of the Marvel multiverse. Now, wielding the hammer of Thor, that's with 2 R's, which can only be used by those that are considered unworthy, Thor went into battle alongside the others, giving everything he had and helping bring down just 2 of the Beyonders at the cost of his arm in New Avengers number 32. Now, after facing just 2 of the Beyonders, only Thor and Hyperion survived the battle. Unfortunately, that battle ended just for another to begin as an entire army of Beyonders descended upon them. In one of the most badass moments in Marvel Comics, realizing that Thor can no longer wield Thor with 2 R's hammer because he has proven himself worthy once again, Thor and Hyperion laugh together and race each other to Valhalla as they throw themselves into this one final battle against an enemy that they have no hope of defeating. Number 8. Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau is an insanely powerful cosmic hero, and being one of the heroes to hold the title of Captain Marvel, we would expect no less. Way back in Avengers number 248, a battle was taking place between the Avengers and various Olympians. One of the main fights taking place was between Zeus, a sky father on par with Odin himself, and the god of thunder himself, Thor. Now, to be quite frank, Zeus thrashed Thor like he was a badly behaved little boy. Zeus had Thor down and is about to literally wipe him from this plane of existence when out of nowhere, Monica Rambeau shows up. Shooting Zeus with a little blast of energy that cuts his arm, she orders him to back off of Thor or she will do much worse. Now, Zeus, obviously not seeing her as a threat, fires off a lightning bolt that simply phases right through her living light body, doing absolutely nothing to her. So, in retaliation, she tells him the gloves are off and flies in, hitting Zeus with a blast that lights up the entirety of Olympus. And while Zeus was not defeated, Thor makes note of the fact that Monica hurt him more than any mortal had ever done before, and it shows.
And at 7, Bizarrenage. Bizarrenage has got to be my favorite amalgam villain at this point, okay? Because I can't believe that I didn't know this existed prior to a couple of lists ago, okay? A combination of Bizarro and Carnage, for crying out loud, is like the best thing ever. Introduced in Spider-Boy number 1 from 1996, Bizarrenage was made through a botched experiment at Project Cadmus in an attempt to replicate alien DNA. The white goopy creature they created went crazy and began destroying everything and everyone in its way. Then Spider-Boy arrived and battled him. So Bizarrenage wanted to be Spider-Boy, so he tried instantly to kill him, but was eventually defeated by getting tricked by Spider-Boy and sucked into an energy containment unit. This thing looks like if Anti-Venom was Carnage, and honestly, I could not be happier because this is such a badass character. I wish that there was more of him. I love it so much. Okay, I can't believe that this exists. This is so dope. I kind of want to cosplay this, if I'm not gonna lie, okay? There's not much about him, but he's still super sexy, because we all like some white goop. And at 6, Annihilus. Annihilus is an interdimensional insectoid conqueror and tyrant hailing from the Negative Zone, a pocket dimension located on Earth 616. When Annihilus discovered the opposing force, the Negative Zone's counterpart of the power cosmic, after long years of failed quests, he finally had the power to fulfill his dreams. With an entity named Ravenous who wielded this power, he invaded the positive matter universe through a portal known as the Crunch. Many worlds and many heroes fell before the Annihilation Wave, and the Annihilation Wave was Annihilus's interdimensional invading force. It was an incredibly powerful force which laid waste to galaxies, slaughtering numerous worlds, and had captured or killed multiple cosmic beings. And Annihilus came close to accomplishing his goal of destroying everything, even taking several Galactus heads, but by that I just mean like heads of multiple versions of Galactus. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful, but he came even closer to winning and destroying reality in What If Annihilation Story, which I hope we get to see in the next season season of the Disney Plus series, since that actually takes place shortly after Civil War. But okay, come on. If you have a whole wave called the Annihilation Wave named after you, you're good. You're on the list. Halfway through into number 5, the Negative Speed Force. The Negative Speed Force originated as an extra-dimensional wellspring of energy that Eobard Thawne tapped into during his quest to gain superhuman speed. Speedsters who are connected to the Speed Force can, through intense fear, hatred, and anguish, forge a connection to the corrupted force known as the Negative Speed Force. This malevolent entity harbors a deep-seated grudge against Barry Allen, holding him responsible for the demise of his own embodiment, and in the CW series, in an act of retribution, the Negative Speed Force orchestrated a plan to make Barry relive the tragic day of his mother's murder through a convergence of circumstances and a mystical blue crystal tied to the Negative Speed Force. And Barry was transported to March 18th, 2000, the fateful day etched in Barry's memory, to ensure this prolonged presence within that era and the trauma of that day continuing on for a while. The Negative Speed Force disrupted a temporal wormhole that Barry sought to utilize his return to the present, but they stopped him from doing that. The Negative Speed Force seized control of Joe West, Barry's trusted ally and basically father figure, but also his father-in-law, which is a whole other story. But the Negative Speed Force used Barry's friends to try and attack and destroy him, which is insane, okay? I honestly didn't expect the Negative Speed Force itself to be a villain, but hey, it happened. The show's in its final season. It's fine. It's allowed.
Number 4, Thanos. Thanos, who made his debut in Iron Man number 55, February of 1973, has only one goal, and that goal is to conquer the galaxy. Sort of. If you are only familiar with his movie adaptation, then you may not know that comics Thanos is not really much of an altruistic dude. The Mad Titan doesn't seek to eliminate half of life in the known universe in order to create a better one. He simply wanted to impress a girl, but not in the same way you might think. Thanos has a thing for death. In fact, he fell in love with the Mistress Death, who is the physical embodiment of death in Marvel Comics. To prove his love to her, he was going to destroy all the life in the universe, and that's what led to him assembling the Infinity Stones and trying to wield the Cosmic Cube. He's really just a cosmic level serial unaliver. Thanos was born on Titan, a moon of Saturn, and is technically an Eternal, but he possessed a deviant gene which made him very different looking. He was bullied for this as a child, and as such, Thanos distances himself from the society, and he even starts dissecting animals. He has gone far in his obsession with Mistress Death, kidnapping his own mother and taking her apart, training his daughter to become an assassin, and even sending a targeted nuclear strike at his own homeworld. He has the power of telekinesis and matter manipulation, has superhuman intellect, can master any technology, time travel, teleport, and is an incredibly powerful and scary dude. Number 3, the Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix. And a lot like the Phoenix, Beyonder is basically like a baby, in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders, that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain, but as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he grows curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil, and conflict, and to that purpose he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars, the very first one. Now he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating Battle World from the remains and from parts of Earth, so that's one level of power right there. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal himself, and he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and grant himself any power he wants. It is more nuanced, but it's incredibly difficult to explain, and I don't have that much time, so we're moving on. Number 2, Dormammu. Dormammu is one of a race of extra-dimensional energy beings called the Faltine. Him and his sister Umar are both mutants of the species who seek to consume matter instead of energy, which is a big no-no among the Faltine, and along with taking out their own pops, it caused them to be banished. They both travel to the Dark Dimension, and eventually Dormammu took it over. Dormammu is the prime enemy of the Vishanti, the gods who give the Sorcerer Supreme his supreme merch, and is stated by Odin to be his equal in power. He is more powerful than even the greatest sorcerers, including Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, and he can banish anyone from his domain, the Dark Dimension, but usually fights them for a bit of the old sport. He also has super strength, astral projection, matter transmutation, interdimensional teleportation, flight, can change his appearance and size, can control the elements, time travel, and project and absorb energy. He's also immortal, if that mattered, and has a regenerative healing factor, which seems kinda useless if you're immortal, but hey, I just work here. And finally, in at number 1 is Shuma Gorath. Shuma Gorath is one of the greatest of the leaders of the Old Ones, also known as the Many-Angled Ones. Think like Lovecraftian old gods, and that's basically the Old Ones, so cosmic horror, tentacles, and madness, all that good stuff. Shuma Gorath is the ruler of hundreds of dimensions and is said to be older than the universe itself. It has many mystical powers, including the ability to communicate and control others across dimensions, create mystical energy blasts from his eye and tentacles, and can transmute things on a planetary scale. He can destroy multiple galaxies with his aura pressure ability and can destroy realities by using his tentacles to create a ball of energy that he just launches at entire realities. I don't even know how that makes sense. They first fully premiered in Marvel Premiere Volume 1, number 10, and in the comic, Shuma Gorath ends up using the mind of the Ancient One, Doctor Strange's mentor, as a portal to the dimension of Earth. Doctor Strange goes into the Ancient One's mind to battle the defenses of Shuma Gorath and fight his way into its realm, only to realize that the only way to win and to defeat Shuma Gorath is to actually take out the Ancient One himself. He's forced to do it, and it leads to him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme for the very first time.
In at 10, Ego. When the mysterious cosmic being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment that would eventually cause it to go nova and destroy the twin planets orbiting it, the scientist named Egros started to work on a way to save his race from the impending doom. On the eve of destruction, Egros had his people moved to bunkers that he had set up at the planet's core to protect them, but things began to go downhill when the sun went nova earlier than expected. With no time left to seal the chambers and assure the survival of his race, Egros tried in vain to reach the underground vault before the solar shockwave could hit him. However, this was not the end for him. Egros was soon merged with every living thing destroyed by the sun, including his race, so that's how the Stranger made Ego the living planet. A second living planet, also known as Alter Ego, was created by the Stranger as well under unknown circumstances and then given to the Collector. But I mean, come on, a living planet? That's weird. That's weird. In at 9, the Batman Who Laughs. The story of Batman from Earth -22 is not much different from that of any other version of Batman. When he was a boy, Bruce Wayne watched his parents get killed in an alleyway, vowing to take vengeance against crime. He trained for years to become the hero of Batman, fighting supervillains in Gotham City. But everything went sideways for this Batman when the Joker started a spree across Gotham, taking down everyone he could. The clown had discovered that he was dying from the same chemicals that turned him into what he was, and wanted to take everyone with him. He killed all of Batman's enemies, including the Penguin, Catwoman, Killer Croc, and the Ventriloquist, and the Joker also killed Commissioner Gordon, who had accidentally sprung an acid trap in his notebook that melted his face off. Very Raiders. After destroying a hospital and recreating the scene of Bruce's parents' death in front of him multiple times, Batman finally lost his control and broke this Joker's neck. Unbeknownst to Batman though, the Joker had exhaled a toxin that he had contained within his heart that infected anyone close to him if he had died, which in this case was Batman. This caused Batman to snap and basically become the new Joker, which after he took over Earth -22 and then gained cosmic powers, so yeah, that's freaking nuts. Plus, this dude just looks crazy. He's like very, what's the one with the pinhead? Hellraiser. He's very Hellraiser, if you look at him. He is. And at 8, Chaos King. Amatsu Mikaboshi, revered as the deity of evil, chaos, and the stars in the Shinto faith of Japan, occupies a unique position in the cosmic hierarchy. Despite not being classified as Amatsu Kami, the primordial entity exists as an embodiment of ancient malevolence and was eternally imprisoned within Yomi, the Shinto underworld. Originating as an extension of oblivion, the cosmic force represented the void, preceding the birth of the universe. Amatsu Mikaboshi embodies the primordial darkness darkness and chaos that predates creation itself. As a counterpart to eternity, its power was diminished upon the emergence of the universe, leading to its integration within Shinto cosmology. According to Shinto lore though, during the time when Earth was an unformed void immersed in primordial darkness, Amatsu Mikaboshi held dominion over it. However, the elder deity of Gaia within the Marvel universe, taking the guise of Izanami, and the youthful Amatsukami known as Izanagi, wielding the divine jeweled spear, united to shape the islands of Japan and form the Formless Abyss. This act of creation ended the era of the Dark God, but I mean still, he exists within Marvel and is a villain, so how are you supposed to fight literal darkness? This is like Supernatural Season 9, okay? You're fighting God's sister basically. That's how I see this, and that's nuts. That's insane.
Number 7. Dark Celestials. So weird. Because when you think about it, the Celestials and even the Dark Celestials actually are a big part of the reason that we even have life on Earth in Marvel Comics. In fact, their existence could even be used to explain the sheer number of superpowered beings that are on Earth as well. The Progenitor, who appeared in AXE Judgment Day after being resurrected by the Avengers and Eternals, is actually the first to have become corrupted. Dark Celestials are just Celestials, godlike cosmic beings, who were corrupted by the Horde. The Progenitor did initially not turn dark, but instead died as a result of this, falling to planet Earth billions of years ago. The Celestial who searched for the Progenitor became corrupted by the corpse they found, and then they were turned dark, thereby creating the Dark Celestials, and actually becoming the first Dark Celestial, but not the first person to be infected by the Horde. Number 6. Horde. The Horde are another insectoid alien race that are so cosmic it actually hurts me. They're basically the race that is meant to cosmically balance out the Celestials. They are agents of the Fulcrum along with the Celestials and Watchers, and the Fulcrum, for those who are not familiar with this term, basically represents the balance of the cosmos. In essence, Marvel's God. The Fulcrum is actually known by another name that many may more commonly recognize from Marvel Comics, the One Above All. Yeah, so like I said, basically God. The Horde are therefore just made to be a force of destruction to counter the Celestials' force of creation in the universe. Why do they look like insects? Probably because it's just creepier that way. Why did they choose to corrupt the Celestials? Because they could. I'm not really sure how all that factors into Fulcrum's plans, or if it does at all, but it's a thing that happened at least, so hey, there's that. Number 5. Raquel. I never know how to say this name. Raquel isn't a strange cosmic villain in the sense of her appearance or role, but more is mentioned here because she suddenly popped up in the comics after years of being dead, which is what makes her kinda weird. It had been so long that her return was mostly met with confusion from fans at that point because many who were reading her reappearance didn't actually know who the heck she was. Even I had to do some digging to fully understand the importance of just who this character is. Raquel was once one of the rulers of the Skrull Empire. Unlike Varanki, who was made queen after the Skrulls' homeworld fell, and actually who a lot of people thought I think Raquel was at first, Raquel was actually the Skrull Empress, back when the homeworld was still around and doing well. Raquel first appeared back in 1979 and would perish in the comics in issue 257 of Fantastic Four in 1983, only a few short years later. She returned only a few short years ago from now though, so like it's 2023 now. I think she reappeared back in like 2020 or something like that, or 2021 in the Empire event, where she was revealed to be Hulkling's grandmother who survived the destruction of Tarnax 4, and who had been working behind the scenes ever since undercover as a Kree pursuer while putting into motion a plan to make her grandson ruler of the United Skrull and Kree empires. Which is like, what? That was me when I found all that out. Number 4. Manifold. Manifold is Eden Fessy, a mutant who is gaining more and more prominence in the comics and is known as the Master Teleporter and also espionage operative for SWORD, the now all-mutant space-based organization. SWORD in the comics stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. While in the MCU it stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, there is still a chance that with new management, SWORD could become more about observation and defense than sentient weapons and offense. If that were to happen when mutants arrive in the MCU, Manifold might be a good fit for a new recruit, just like in the comics. Manifold's mutant powers themselves are quite cosmic in nature, allowing Manifold to warp time and space through communicating with the universe basically, who generally grants Manifold whatever he asks for, bending itself in essence to his whim and allowing him to travel great distances with ease. Don't underestimate Manifold, he is a masterful teleporter. And y'all know how I feel about teleporters. Teleporters are so OP. Number 3. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was teased at the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but we still haven't seen the character just yet, nor has he been cast. Although, there were some rumors spreading around online a few months ago about the search for Adam Warlock having begun in the casting room, and even rumors about just what type of actor James Gunn and the team were looking for. Gunn, however, quashed those claims himself in a tweet. Adam Warlock is an immensely powerful character in the comics, and one that would be really cool to see on the big screen. However, it seems that while it is likely we will see Adam Warlock, the creation of Aisha, and the Sovereign as teased at the end of Guardians 2, it seems less likely that we'll see him appear in the third and final Guardians 3. He might not show up there. At least that's what James Gunn is leading us to believe, unless he's, trying to sneak one past us and be like, yeah, he won't be there, and then he still shows up. Perhaps though he will be a new character who gets his own series of films and is simply introduced as a concept in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I could see being a thing considering how important Adam Warlock is. Only time though will tell. The other big question of course will be who will be the right person for this role? Who will play him? Since apparently we thought we had an idea, but we don't have any ideas yet. Is it weird that I would really love to see Keanu Reeves as Adam Warlock? Is that a weird cast? I don't know. Number 2. Abigail Brand. Abigail Brand was a character that I was hoping to meet when S.W.O.R.D. was introduced in the MCU in WandaVision. I was waiting. I was like, S.W.O.R.D., Abigail Brand, here she comes. Unfortunately, the version of S.W.O.R.D. we got to know was a little different. And mutants, of course, still do not exist in the MCU, so that is another problem with introducing Brand, who is known for being a mutant. Her mutant power causes her hands to ignite, erupting into all-around flames that are typically depicted as being either red or blue. The flames she can create are hot enough to burn through most types of metal. Abigail Brand herself is part human and part alien, and she often acts as a leader for S.W.O.R.D., which used to be associated with S.H.I.E.L.D., operating as a separate division within it, which often meant that we got to see her interacting with Nick Fury, which was pretty great, I gotta say. You could think of Abigail Brand as more of a sassy space pirate version of Maria Hill. Number 1. Emperor Hulkling. One character that we have all been really excited to see show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who has been huge in the comics and only getting even greater in terms of popularity, is Emperor Doric VIII, aka Hulkling. Hulkling's current cosmic husband, Wiccan, aka Billy Kaplan, did of course recently show up in kid form in WandaVision, and as other various members of the Young Avengers appear to be surfacing in the MCU, fans everywhere are wondering just how and when Teddy Altman will make his appearance. Hulkling is one of the original members of the Young Avengers and is currently known as the head and ruling emperor of the Kree-Skrull Alliance. Assuming this role just before the events of Empire, Teddy was crucial to ending the 100-year-long war between the Kree and Skrull to unify the two groups and create the Alliance. Actually, I don't know if it was 100 years. It may have been longer than 100 years, just putting that out there. But I feel like it was at least 100 years long. Teddy himself is both Kree and Skrull by birth, being the son of Mar-Vell and Princess Enel.
Number 10. Brainiac. The Collector of Worlds. Kinda like those weirdos who collect snow globes. Brainiac is considered one of Superman's stronger and actually not boring foes. Brainiac's level of intellect supersedes humans by several centuries of advanced knowledge. He's so smart that his intelligence actually creates his other powers, if that even makes sense. For example, he can interconnect his consciousness with other computer systems, possess other beings, and even transfer knowledge and information to himself from others. Now, the original Brainiac's purpose was to capture cities and assimilate knowledge in order to gain power. Part of his operating procedure is collecting civilizations for study and preserving his knowledge of alien species so that he remains the most supreme being in the universe, and then destroying planets and galaxies in his wake to prevent the knowledge from spreading. Now, because of his ability to interface with networks and possess living organisms, he has become basically omniscient. Brainiac has gained the ability to spread like a virus and hold massive influence over entire populations. It has even learned from his encounters with Superman and developed countermeasures to thwart the Man of Steel. Number 9. Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos, in the previous cosmos actually. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. When Galactus destroys and consumes planets, he is sort of bringing balance to the universe. Kind of like how life is given and taken every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth so many freaking times. And I guess other planets for that matter too, or whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds, such as the Silver Surfer and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so many others. And while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus' power depends on his planet's consumption. So a weakened Galactus has been killed before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets, he's been able to defeat multiple mad celestials all by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can get behind that. Number 8. Thanos. Thanos, who made his debut in Iron Man number 55 in February of 1973, has only one goal, and that goal is to conquer the galaxy. If you are only familiar with his movie adaptation, then you may not know that comics Thanos is not really much of an altruistic dude. The Mad Titan doesn't seek to eliminate half of life in the known universe in order to create a better one, he simply wanted to impress a girl. But not in the same way you might think. Thanos has a thing for death. In fact, he fell in love with the Mistress Death, who is the physical embodiment of death in Marvel Comics. Now, to prove his love, he was going to destroy all the life in the universe, and that's what led to him assembling the Infinity Stones and trying to wield the Cosmic Cube. He's really just a cosmic level serial unaliver, if you want to call him that. Thanos was born on Titan, a moon of Saturn, and is technically an Eternal, but he possessed a deviant gene which made him very different looking. Now, he was bullied for this as a child, and as such, Thanos distances himself from his society, and even starts dissecting animals, doing all that creepy stuff. He has gone far in his obsession with Mistress Death, kidnapping his own mother and dissecting her, training his daughter to become an assassin, and even sending a targeted nuclear strike at his own homeworld. He has the power of telekinesis and matter manipulation, has superhuman intellect, can master any technology, time travel, teleport, and is an incredibly powerful and scary dude. Number 7. Martian Manhunter. Though many people don't realize it, John Johns, the Manhunter from Mars, is one of DC Comics' most powerful superheroes. This quiet and humble Martian, in addition to possessing all of the many powers that Kryptonians also share, is also a shapeshifter who can morph his body however he wishes and is one of the DC Universe's most powerful telepaths. He can turn invisible, effortlessly phase through solid objects, or make his fists as hard as a diamond as he punches someone in the face, nearly as hard as Superman can. He was a law enforcement officer on Mars before he became a detective on Earth when he was marooned here, but being an alien, he is intrinsically tied to the wider galaxy and has many adventures that go out into the stars. But like many cosmic superheroes, he has a quiet, reserved personality which, when you learn just how incredibly powerful he is, it makes you just respect him that much more. Number 6. Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer has a pretty iconic internal fight. The constant struggle between responsibility and morality in a universe where evil is often more necessary than good. Sorry, I read that quote while I was making this video and gosh, it's just so good. The Surfer was originally Norrin Rad, an astronomer from the planet Zen Law. When Rad discovered that Galactus, the devourer of worlds, had come to devour Zen Law's life force, Rad struck a deal with the cosmic entity to seek out uninhabited planets that Galactus could consume. Eventually, Galactus became aware of Earth and set out to make it his next meal. The Surfer arrived just in time to warn the Fantastic Four of Galactus' arrival, which was what initiated his initial reveal into the universe of Marvel in Fantastic Four number 48 to 50, and started a great relationship between the Surfer and the superhero family. The Silver Surfer's adventures often center on philosophical conundrums as much as physical challenges, and Stan Lee has used the Surfer as a vessel to express some of the writer's own worldviews. As for his powers, he is in possession of the power cosmic, which granted him both power projection and absorption, as well as a degree of matter manipulation and even soul manipulation, among many other abilities. things. Number 5. Superman. Superman often finds himself exploring the far-flung reaches of other galaxies as well as defending Earth, and specifically his city of Metropolis. Stories frequently find the superhero in locations ranging from the region of space where his birth planet Krypton once orbited, which, fun fact, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, is in the Corvus constellation near red dwarf LHS 2520. In case you wanted to know that, I don't know. 2. Planets like New Genesis and Apocalypse, the twin home of the New Gods. Stories have seen him holding black holes with his hands, moving solar systems, punching death, and he broke Highfather's staff out of the Source Wall, which is the barrier between us and the unifying force of the universe. Which my puny brain cannot really even comprehend what that means, so we're just gonna carry on. Okay.
Number 4. Darkseid. Darkseid was born on the planet Apocalypse and was originally known as Prince Euxus, second son to the king and queen of the planet. Despite being second in line, the prince aspired to one day rule the planet. He murdered his own brother to seize more power, taking the name Darkseid afterwards, and eventually killed his own mother for poisoning his love Sully. His whole story is very Shakespearean and very Greek tragedy, complete with a prophecy that one of his sons would one day defeat him in battle. Darkseid is often presented as the enemy of the Justice League. He killed half of the Amazonians in Themyscira when they refused to help him overthrow the Olympian gods. He has always been obsessed with control and power, so much so that he pursued the anti-life equation, which grants its owner full control over those who are exposed to it, stripping the victims of their free will. That's what Darkseid is into. He's like, no free will. Do what I say. It's like a really bossy parent. That's Darkseid. Number 3. Thanos. Similar to DC's Darkseid in many ways. Born an Eternal on his home planet, Titan, Thanos would grow up to be a fearsome disappointment to his parents, especially his mother, whom he would eventually end up killing. Thanos was always pulled towards evil and darkness, even from a young age, as he became obsessed with a love of death. His love of Mistress Death, who usually appears as a concept in sexy lady form in the comics, would drive him to kill entire worlds in her honor, causing him to be known as the Destroyer of Worlds. As a result, the Mad Titan is often categorized as being one of the greatest threats in the comic book world, often perceived as an almost unstoppable force. And it is only when all the heroes of the cosmos or of Earth come together that they even stand a chance in stopping him, though he has killed them all before even, so there you go. In Volume 2 of the Thanos series, he managed to wipe out everyone in the universe, save for a Mjolnir-wielding Silver Surfer, though he eventually killed him too, so Thanos is one of those inevitable villains. He's always gonna show up, he's always gonna kill everyone. But don't worry, you'll all come back, it'll be fine. Number 2. Doomsday. Doomsday is one of those villains I almost feel bad for. He can't help himself. He originated on prehistoric Krypton and was created through a series of evolutionary experiments conducted by Bertrand. Have you ever noticed how evolution-based scientists always tend to be bad news? Like, they're all evil, what's up with that? Bertrand basically kept cloning the same deceased baby's remains after its death to speed up the evolutionary process of their genes, causing them to adapt slightly with each death. Because comics. The result ended up being Doomsday, who eventually was able to resurrect himself after each death he suffered just on his own. And due to dying so many times and being experimented on and tortured throughout his genetic history, he grew to hate life. It is this hatred that has made him such a ferocious enemy, as all he often wants to do is kill and destroy. He eventually made his way to Earth after falling through a tear in space-time, terrorizing a planet for years, and after being thought dead, was shot out into space. And he landed on Earth. True story. Number 1. Galactus. This hungry supervillain is so ingrained in the existence of the universe that we once learned in an alternate universe that eliminating him in the comics had actually been a bad idea, prompting Franklin Richards to take his place. Galactus was once a scientist known as Galen, trying to save his home world from the end of, well, not just their world, but the entire universe. Sadly, he realized that resistance was futile, and he and the rest of his people decided to accept their fate and instead fly into their own doom. Miraculously, Galen survived and found himself chosen. Probably felt pretty bad about that. He was granted with great cosmic power, but with it came great hunger, causing him to eventually become the Devourer of Worlds we so famously know him as.
And it's at Yotat. Yotat overheard 2 brute half-breeds telling his boss that they allegedly killed the collector and had stolen his weapons collection. Yotat used this information to uncover the weapons cache, and then attempted to trade them to another mob boss in exchange for a membership in his organization. But this mob boss named Diogo had other ideas. He betrayed Yotat, shooting him and then leaving for dead, and then blowing up the weapons depot with Yotat inside. However, somehow he survived the explosion and was actually transformed by it. And when the world was transformed transformed into Battleworld for the Secret Wars storyline, Yotat caught up with Gyogo at the Sobolski bar on Nowhere. After killing the man who betrayed him, Yotat was confronted by Rocket Raccoon. Rocket attempted to execute him for what he viewed as a murder, only to see that his blast had no effect. Drax the Destroyer then rescued Rocket Raccoon by knocking Yotat unconscious, and then the Nova Corps arrived to take him into custody. However, later on he did defeat the Guardians after a few months, but this guy looks awesome too. Just look at it. It looks badass. And at 9, the Collector. Taneleer Tavan is one of the oldest living beings in the universe. His species at Cygnus X1 was one of the first to evolve after the Big Bang. Death took Tavan as the last surviving representative of his species and then gave him total immortality. Tavan, as well as one of the representatives of each of the first species in the universe, cannot die. These people have associated among themselves to create the Elders of the Universe. However, after his wife Matani died, he learned that one of the factors of his immortality was the will to live, and Matani had lost hers. Tavan then decided that he would not suffer the same fate and looked for a goal to dedicate his life to. He then had a vision, seeing powerful things that would rise, determined to destroy the universe. And he decided to prevent this from happening, and that he would dedicate his life to collecting artifacts and living beings throughout the universe and place them out of danger. Then, after the destruction of the universe, he could repopulate it and bequeath the knowledge of cultures from the past. So he became the Collector to continue being immortal, which is certainly an interesting origin story. And at 8, Ronan the Accuser. In the MCU, Ronan was a radical Kree warlord and former member of the Accusers. In 1995, during the Kree-Skrull War, Ronan worked with Yon-Rogg and the Star Force after the ambush in Torfa to wipe out the last of the Skrull refugees. Ronan and the Accusers were then called to drop warheads on Earth to wipe out the remaining Skrull opposition there, but was forced to retreat when Captain Marvel launched a counteroffensive against the Kree, promising retribution. You will get retribution. Further disgusted by the peace treaty made between the Kree Empire and Xandar, Ronan initiated a new campaign to eradicate the Xandarnians by forging an alliance with Thanos, offering the orb in exchange for the destruction of Xandar. After a long search, Ronan did acquire the orb, but after having seen its true destructive capabilities, betrayed Thanos and chose to take the orb's power for himself. Using this newfound power, he attacked Xandar, only to be defeated and killed by the Guardians of the Galaxy in an iconic dance battle. But honestly, with the power of an Infinity Stone, it's a wonder how he actually managed to lose. But that single stone still made him pretty damn powerful.
Number 7, Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos in the previous iteration of the cosmos. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. He is sort of bringing balance to the universe, kind of like how life is given and taken away every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth on so many different occasions. And I guess he's tried to devour other planets too, for that matter, but you know, like whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds though, such as Silver Surfer, the Fallen One, and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, to name a few. And while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't actually hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus' power depends on his planet's consumption. So a weakened Galactus who hasn't eaten a planet has been taken out before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets, he's pretty much unstoppable and has been able to defeat multiple mad celestials by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can understand that. Number 6, the One Below All. In Marvel Comics, there is a character called the One Above All, who hasn't really been seen all too often, but is essentially the equivalent to God or the Creator. We have gods like Odin and Zeus and Thor in Marvel Comics and the MCU, but this is a little bit different. The One Above All is like the god of everything, the supreme ruler of creation and compassion. It's even been represented as the writers of Marvel at one point, to give you an idea. So, the One Below All, as you can imagine, is the antithesis to this, the personification of destruction and hate. Another way of looking at it is that the One Below All is actually the One Above All's hulked out form, although that makes things a little bit more complex in some ways. The One Below All is trapped in the below place and manifests itself in reality through gamma and gamma mutates. Basically, this means that Hulk and the other gamma mutated beings have fractions of the One Below All's power and can be taken over by the One Below All for him to try and escape and destroy literally everything. In an alternate future, the One Below All actually does this, taking over Bruce Banner's body and using his power to devour the cosmic entity Eternity and eradicate all life in not only this version of the cosmos, but even going into the next iteration of the multiverse, ensuring that nothing in the universe will ever continue to be. Luckily, this is prevented in the Immortal Hulk story, but I'm telling you, go read it. Number 5, the Black Winter. You know, Galactus made this list, but why choose him when we can choose the bigger version of Galactus? Where Galactus consumes individual planets, the Black Winter devours entire realities. The Black Winter, the Star Plague, the Blightstorm, the Rot Blizzard, or the Fimbulwinter if you want, was the one who brought the end of the 6th iteration of the universe, leaving only Galen of the planet Ta, like we talked about before. When the Black Winter arrives in the Marvel Universe, this iteration of it, in the latest run of Thor, Galactus turns an All-Father Thor who possesses the Thor Force into his Herald of Thunder, granting him the power cosmic, and an attack from this Thor only stops the Black Winter for a total of 14 seconds. That's how powerful this multiversal entity is. Luckily, at this time, the Black Winter isn't here to destroy the universe. He is just here for his herald Galactus. But luckily, Thor turns Galactus into a massive power cosmic explosion that destroys the Black Winter in his entirety, and it's incredibly awesome.
Number 4, Miss America. America Chavez is super spacey. Just listen to her origin story. She comes from a place known as the Utopian Parallel, a place out of space and time, an alternate world that was in essence created by Wiccan, who here is known as the Demiurge. She was raised by 2 mothers, Amalia and her wife Elena Chavez. Her mothers sacrificed themselves to save their home, sealing up black holes that threatened its existence. As a result, the Utopian Parallel ended up being sucked into the Marvel multiverse. Inspired by her mother's sacrifice, America Chavez ran away from her home, confident that it would be safe without her, and set out to save other worlds in other dimensions, traveling through space and time. America Chavez may have grown up on Utopian Parallel, but she is also a member or descendant of the Furtonas, a humanoid alien race created by 2 deities in love with one another. As such, she has powers from both worlds, possessing super strength, speed, invulnerability, and the abilities to create multi-dimensional portals, manipulate energy, and fly. Number 3, Smasher. Isabel Kane was originally a normal human living on a farm in Iowa, but one day she came across the exospecs of a Smasher. Smashers are members of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. They look like humans but are aliens who use exospecs, a set of goggles, to grant themselves powers and enhance their abilities. Izzy would be granted powers like superhuman strength, speed, and durability, as well as the ability to fly, and do so at hyper speed when needed. She would later leave Earth, traveling to the Shi'ar Empire and joining the Imperial Guard. Later on, when she returned to Earth, she would be recruited by Captain America to join the Avengers. Number 2, Thor. That's right, Thor can actually be considered a cosmic hero.
I'm very protective of the humans because they're so helpless and ridiculous.
Well, he can be considered a godly hero too, but it turns out those categories are not always mutually exclusive. In fact, there are many instances where they go hand in hand with characters. Thor himself is from Asgard, but Asgard itself is actually located in outer space. Unlike Earth, it's not round, but more flat. In fact, the 10 realms are believed to be located potentially in alternate dimensions. Asgard, Alfheim, Nidavellir, and Vanaheim are all believed to be part of the same dimension. When wielding Mjolnir, Thor is considered one of the most powerful heroes around. He can use his hammer to destroy mountains, moons, and easily demolish important Earth landmarks and monuments, such as the Great Pyramids and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Number 1, Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is one of the most powerful cosmic beings around. He does his best to be a hero while also often being known for serving his master Galactus as a herald. He's probably one of the most heroic heralds, to be honest. He gets his powers from his master Galactus, who imbued him with the power cosmic after he agreed to serve him in exchange for Galactus sparing the Silver Surfer's homeworld, which Galactus was about to devour. However, in becoming a herald, Norrin Radd, as he was formerly known, also lost a part of himself, being unable to remember much of his past life before becoming the Silver Surfer. He has used his power in the past both to disrupt all technology and electricity in the world, turning off all of its power, and has also used his power to save the world, preventing it from being destroyed by binding his cosmic soul to the planet's core. Number 10. Cordyceps Jones. Cordyceps Jones is one of my favorites of the cosmic villains mentioned on this list. He is definitely a super weirdo. Basically a mushroomy looking space mobster who is made up of fungal spores. While he might sound ridiculous, he is not a villain that you want to underestimate, trust me. He both looks and is terrifying. Most recently using one of his casinos to threaten the existence of the entire planet of Earth by creating a betting pool based around its destruction. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like? Number 9. The Brood. Despite being a bunch of insectoid alien critters, the Brood are actually among one of the most normal of the weirdos on our list. They kinda resemble the monstrous species we see in Alien, and likewise they are usually known for bursting through people's stomachs. The Brood also seek out hosts to incubate their young, which then of course burst out of the host's bodies to be born. Pretty much just like we see happen in Alien. Something interesting and bizarre that we know about the Brood too is that they don't just do this for survival's sake because, you know, it's required for them to continue to exist as a species. They actually enjoy terrorizing others throughout the cosmos. Inflicting pain and causing panic is something pretty much all Brood enjoy, giving them actual gratification from the violent acts that they commit. In fact, in their race, it's actually weird to feel a sense of empathy or compassion for others and to not enjoy pain, which is why Brew was ostracized and left to die by the Brood Queen, before he was then found and taken in by the X-Men. And weirdly, in his case, the ability to be friendly and kind is actually like his mutant power as a Brood, because, I mean, that is a mutation. Number 8. The Phalanx. Phalanx are some of the most freaky of the villainous cosmic alien races we have over at Marvel Comics. They are believed to have been created by the Technarchy, but I don't think they have actually been made aware of this connection, probably because the Technarchy doesn't want them to know that. Like the Borg, who likely inspired them, they are a cybernetic race focused on assimilating other worlds. They don't take you to a cube to experiment on you though, but instead infect you with the techno-organic virus, which then slowly changes you into a cyborg, erasing everything within you that is organic and turning you techno-organic, some might say.
And at 7, Jason. Jason was the only son of the previous Emperor of Spartax, and therefore their sole heir to the throne. He was summoned by his father when the war broke out between the Spartax and the Badoon, and on his way back home he was forced to crash land on Earth, where he fell in love with a human woman named Meredith Quill. The two began a short relationship before Jason was forced to leave to wage war for the Spartax. Meredith would later go on to give birth to his son, Peter Quill. Yeah, that's right, MCU fans, in the comics, Peter's dad is actually Emperor of Spartax and not Ego the Living Planet, which honestly makes more sense given that, you know, Ego is a whole ass planet. But years later, Jason joined the other members of the Galactic Council to declare Earth off limits to extraterrestrial interaction. Once his son defended Earth from a Badoon attack though, Jason sent Spartax soldiers to capture him and his team of Guardians of the Galaxy. However, the Guardians managed to escape and flee. And at 6, Thane. Thane is the secret Inhuman son of Thanos. After a descendant Inhuman tribe ran afoul of Thanos and his army, one Inhuman woman returned home pregnant with Thanos' child. I don't even want to know how that worked. The son of Thanos was convinced by Jason that the X-Men and the Guardians had committed such a massacre in an attempt to remove him from the conflict, thus giving Thane a reason to join his side. After reacquiring the Black Vortex, Thane submitted to it. This increased his power by tenfold. Basically, the Black Vortex is like a mirror-like object that when you see your reflection, it shows you the ideal version of yourself and then turns you into that ideal version. So yeah, this dude's powers increased a lot, turning him into an incredibly powerful villain. As part of his deal with Mr. Knife, Thane then used his cosmically enhanced power to encase the entirety of Spartax in his amber construct. The trapped Spartax would later be traded to the Brood by Mr. Knife in exchange for it taking advantage of their expansion. A freaking cosmically enhanced son of Thanos? Yeah, that's pretty freaking powerful. That's nuts. Halfway through into number 5, Thanos. While usually portrayed as an evil bent villain, many stories have alternately depicted Thanos as having a twisted moral compass and thinking that his actions are actually justified. The character's perhaps best known role came in the 1991 storyline of the Infinity Gauntlet, the culmination of several previous story arcs, which saw him successfully assembling the 6 Infinity Gems into a single gauntlet and then using them to wipe out half the universe's population, including many of its heroes, in an effort to earn the affection of Mistress Death. The the living embodiment of death in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, this dude wanted to get it on with death. Although these events were later undone, the storyline has remained one of the most popular published by Marvel, which was also later adapted into the MCU with the Infinity War and Endgame movies, which are the two highest grossing Marvel movies of all time, and the two highest grossing superhero movies of all time, which only serves to show the absolute power that the Mad Titan has over the Marvel Universe. Plus, he also managed to collect all the Infinity Gems and then wipe out half the universe just to get Lady Death on his dick. So I mean, he's pretty crazy. Or dare I say, mad.
Number 4. Ronan. Ronan doesn't just happen to have his Kree physiology, this often Kree hero also has had himself leveled up in terms of his physiology due to cybernetic implants, and he has even had his power levels upped by an interaction with the Black Vortex Mirror, which often unlocks one's potential even after the user has relinquished the powers that were imbued by it. The awesome thing about Ronan is that he's not only super strong, durable, and fast, but he's also quite intelligent. Sure, he hasn't always been a hero, but when he does work with and for the good guys, he is a powerhouse. And even when he's considered more of a villain, he is still often respected by fellow supers, no matter their alignment. Fun fact, while Ronan has actually fought against the Inhumans in the past, he has also for a time allied himself with them, and he even married and was in love with the Inhuman Crystal, who we talked about earlier. I actually really like them together. I think they're cute. Number 3. Gladiator. Gladiator is known for being a prominent member of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. He himself is a citizen of the Shi'ar Empire who has been shown to be powerful enough to defeat Thanos in a fight. The thing about Gladiator, aka Kalark, is that his confidence increases his power levels. If he's confident enough, his strength and speed can become almost limitless in terms of power levels, also making him near invulnerable to taking damage as well, strengthening his durability. He has been shown to be powerful enough to take down the Thing, and has even managed to explode and destroy planets with the force of his blows. Now that is some super strength. Number 2. Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill never gets enough love and respect, so it is time to give him some. Beta Ray Bill is a Corbinite who was chosen to be his people's champion. As such, he was transformed into a cybernetic being which enhanced his physiology. Originally, Bill started out as a nemesis to Thor, who Bill believed was a threat to the Corbinites that Bill himself was responsible for protecting. The two fought in a battle for who would get to keep Thor's hammer, following Bill managing to claim the hammer and defeat Thor in combat. Bill also actually won that trial, but in the end, Odin decided Thor could actually have his hammer back and instead forged a new hammer called Stormbreaker for Bill. Following this, Bill would work with the Asgardians and grow close to them, befriend Lady Sif, Thor, and others. His strength is said to match Thor's, and he is known for being superhumanly fast and durable. He's also virtually immortal when it comes to how long he could survive for, based on the fact that he's kind of a cyborg. Number 1. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a perfect being who was created by a group of researchers known as the Enclave. After he was born, he was also taken in and given motivation by the Soul Stone by the High Evolutionary. Technically, Warlock's potential is infinite, as following each rebirth cycle he has a tendency to become more and more powerful and can even develop new powers during as needed. Adam Warlock has intense cosmic awareness, has been telepathic, is capable of energy and matter manipulation, and is considered to be super strong, durable, fast, and even immortal due to the sheer, indomitable strength of his soul.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Brood. Being the first predator in the universe is a good way to get you on this list. If you're unfamiliar with the Brood, they are an insect-like race that goes through the universe and literally consumes everything in sight. They are basically a hive mind that are all controlled by the Brood Queen. They are extremely hard to kill, and they spread like wildfire. Not only do they suck the universe dry for everything good, they genuinely enjoy the suffering of others. That's very rude of them. The Brood have multiple limbs, tails that have poisonous stingers on them, wings that come out of their back, and an exoskeleton that acts like armor. And it's not so much that one Brood is hard to kill, but it's that, like any insect, once they infest an area they will start to spread, and you have to fight thousands if not millions of them. All of them can communicate telepathically with the Brood Mother, so if you start fighting one of them, then she can send a whole army after you in seconds, and they all know how to work together in a massive hive mind. Coming in at number 9, we have the Phalanx, a race of robot humanoids who have been captured and controlled so they can be used as weapons. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun existence, but there is a good reason for it. The reason that they have basically been used as living weapons is because they are really good at what they do. They love to take over worlds. Through their existence, they have taken tech from 100,000 different species, and they have used it to upgrade themselves and make their tech even more powerful. And they've been alive for what they say is 100,000 life cycles, and they've also caused the extinction of 200,000 races. That's one hell of a resume. You want these guys in your back pocket if you ever go to war with anyone across the universe. Their goal is to assimilate the whole universe into Phalanx, and it's thought that they are controlled by a titan who resides in a black hole. They go from planet to suck each one dry for all of its resources and take all of the good tech. With each planet they consume, they become more powerful. Coming in at number 8, we have Ego, the living planet. Being a massive planet that only has one purpose but to consume and provide for himself sounds pretty dangerous. You think that if you were able to be alive for billions of years, you would learn to no longer have an ego. But the fact that you were created in conjunction with another version of yourself, aka alter ego, another living planet who is constantly in competition with Ego, I can understand why you have never lost your need for competition. Ego has the ability to consume life from other planets and is powerful enough to destroy them one by one, much like Galactus. But anything that is handcrafted by the Beyonder is sure to be extremely powerful.
Number 7, Thanos. You know who this guy is, come on. We first saw him in the after credit scene of Avengers 1 and 2, and then we saw him sitting down in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we saw him snap away half of all life of the universe in Avengers Infinity War. The Mad Titan first made his comic book debut back in Iron Man issue 55. Funny enough, Robert Downey Jr. is actually 55 years old. Coincidence? Yes, definitely, most definitely. Hands down, not coincidence. So, we all know how powerful Thanos is with the Infinity Gauntlet, but if you haven't seen the movies, I'll touch briefly on those. But without the Gauntlet, Thanos is still a villain you don't want to mess with. Born on Saturn's moon, Titan, both of his parents were Eternals, and due to the genetic disorder known as the Deviant Syndrome, his mother actually tried to kill him at first sight. That's just mean. I mean, don't do that. I mean, he got payback when he killed his entire family just to impress Death, so, kind of fair. Oh yeah, he's also in love with Death. Like the actual death. In the opening of Avengers Infinity War, we see Thanos level the Hulk without even using a single Infinity Stone. That's how strong this guy is. But once he obtains all 6 Infinity Stones, he has control over each stone's cosmic powers, those being soul, time, power, reality, space, and mind. And after that, he snapped his fingers and half of all of life disappeared. In the comics, he does this to get the attention of Death, but in the movie he does it to be a savior. Too many mouths to feed, not enough to go around, he says. Hey man, just snap some food for people, I don't know, or snap some more planets with more stuff. Just an idea, I don't know. Number 6. Venom. Now, of course, I'm going to include the Clintar, specifically the one that attached itself to Eddie Brock. Making his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 252, Venom was initially attached to Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. The Clintar symbiote was made by the Dark Elder God, Null. We mentioned Null in part 1 of this list, so if you haven't already, make sure you go and check that out after this video. A little part 2, then part 1. I see ya, you're going backwards. Living life on the edge. So, Eddie Brock got fired from the Daily Globe after Spider-Man called him out. Eddie Brock, who also had cancer, sad little side note there, he got pissed. And as you saw in Spider-Man 3, he eventually bonded with the symbiote at the Bell Tower. Then it was all downhill from there. We are Venom to become one. So naturally, they both wanted to go and try and kill Spider-Man. Imagine having a fully sentient being merge with you. I think I'd be on board. Hey, touch this and you'll basically be Spider-Man. Okay, done, no problem. Say no more, sir. This symbiote is also able to cling onto other beings and bond with other superpowers. That's crazy. Its weaknesses are only heat and loud vibrations. I personally would kill for this cosmic power. Absorb me all. Take me, Venom. Number 5. The Skrull Empire. They made their comic book debut in Fantastic Four issue 2 back in 1962, and they made their Marvel Cinematic debut only last year in Captain Marvel. But who are the Skrulls? Well, they're a race of shapeshifters from the Andromeda Galaxy. They look like green humans, kind of, a bit more lizard-like. except much more powerful and ferocious, that is. They lived on the homeworld of Skrullos in the Druk system. I loved watching these guys in Captain Marvel. It was nice to see the villains relate in a human way, like on a human level. So usually we have these giant evil gods or insane robots, but to see the villains of that movie end up just wanting the same chances of survival as humans, that's a classic. So yeah, they're expert shapeshifters. They can transform into pretty much anything organic or non-organic, as long as it's solid. Can't be water. They can't just, shapeshift into a Gatorade and then call it a day. They have similar abilities as Mr. Fantastic. They can make their limbs stretch out. They can't adapt to superpowers unless you're a Super Skrull. The Skrull-Kree War. Ooh, that's gonna be a lot of K's there. The Skrull-Kree War is the most notable. It was one of the central plots for Captain Marvel. I have a feeling we're gonna see more Skrulls in the MCU. I just hope that they don't use it to do whatever they want with any plot, if you feel me. Like Nick Fury at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. That was a fun little moment. Anything else too crazy might just kind of undo what we've done so far. I don't know. Number 4. The Magus. Making his comic book debut in New Mutants issue 18, the Magus is a powerful enemy of Adam Warlock. He travels alongside Thanos in the Guardians of the Galaxy comic books, and in one of the many after-credit scenes for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Adam Warlock's name was briefly mentioned. Very brief. So hopefully we get this badass dude on screen soon, because Magus is originally a future version of Adam Warlock, so to see the two go at it with an actor who has this crazy range would be super entertaining. And after Adam Warlock obtained the Infinity Gauntlet, he cleansed himself of all good and evil, and this created an evil version of himself. Almost like in that movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise. It would be one guy playing both. So good. Or Captain America versus Captain America. Whatever you prefer. So we have the future Magus, right? He's the original older Magus, and he travels to the past to guide his younger self, so he ends up becoming where he is. Makes sense. Got it? Okay. Adam Warlock comes in and traps evil Magus in the Soul Gem, which is what I was hoping to see in Endgame, to be honest. I wanted to see everybody in the Soul World, and it would have been nice if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 kept to its original release date, and then maybe we could have had some more Adam Warlock stuff in the picture by now, answering more questions that we still have about the Infinity Stones in the MCU, especially the Soul Stone. Number 3. The Celestials. Making their first appearance in Eternals issue 1 back in 1976, the Celestials have been seen many times in the MCU and many more in the comics. There were actually billions of Celestials until a weapon known as the God Killer took most of them out. They are powerful extraterrestrial cosmic beings. We saw one of them wipe out a planet in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. They are the ones who created the Eternals and the Deviants. So these space gods are around 1,000 feet tall, give or take. We even see the inside of one of their heads when Thanos gets the Reality Stone in Infinity War. It's called Nowhere, it's that big floating head. The first celestial host arrived to Earth 1 million or so years ago when they created the Eternals and the Deviants, but later on, they were the reasoning behind the existence of mutants, creating the mutant gene. Yeah, so they're pretty important, I'd say. The second host on Earth sunk Atlantis, so a bit less fun than that first one there. Then the third one got into a fight with the Sky Gods because it wanted the right to toy around with humans. So they aren't exactly the most chill entities out there, I guess. Despite being these all-powerful gods, they still need to wear armor just like the rest of us. Armor that is equipped with the tools needed to successfully wipe out an entire planet. Not just like a tape measure, you know? Now all this power, but where does it come from? Well, after Reed Richards' son almost gets turned into a Celestial, he was determined to find that answer out himself. Reed concludes that the Celestials are drawing power from extra-dimensional sources like pocket universes or even hyperspace. So they just come along to Earth every now and then, check out how we're doing, and then either destroy all of us or give a couple of us powers. I'll be waiting outside in an open field after this video is done. I'll also be waiting for the Celestials to come and judge me and give me super speed or super length, something else, you know, something cool, or like a lot of money. I'm good with either of those. Number 2. Kang the Conqueror. Also known as Nathaniel Richards, Kang the Conqueror is actually already cast in the live-action MCU. Air horns. Jonathan Majors is joining the cast of Ant-Man 3 to play the hyped character. But who is Kang? Well, making his first appearance in Avengers issue 8 back in 1964, Kang has seen many centuries. His powers allow him to travel through time, and his futuristic suit of armor is built with weapons that could take on any super. He's also incredibly smart and of course travels with armies as backup. These armies are built in a similar fashion sense, each warrior equipped with the same armory and weaponry. The time travel stuff doesn't come without consequence though, so as Kang travels more and more through time, he creates time-displaced duplicates. As we saw in Avengers Endgame, it can be tricky to figure that out. I think this is a perfect time to introduce a time-hopping villain, especially for Ant-Man, who's now a big-time Avenger who's been around the quantum block a few times. So what do you guys think will be Kang's goal in Ant-Man 3? How do you guys think he's going to be written into this current MCU run? Honestly, I think after WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness, Kang's going to end up trying to clean the timelines up, just as the Avengers did, but he'll be laying waste to any Avenger that stands in his way. And finally, number 1, Mad Jim Jaspers. Yes, lastly we have James Jasper's unreal name. He made his debut in Daredevil's number 7 in 1983. This dude's nuts. So he was this British politician who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, okay? He was a leader of the Conservative Party. He was known for his anti-superhero stance because he wanted to keep Britain safe, okay? So of course many people were with him and he won the general election. But old Jim Jaspers was more than meets the eye. He's actually a mutant with reality warping powers. And these type of mutants scare me. So he's representing Haslip West. He even gets knighted by Queen Elizabeth. So he creates this strike team whose job it is pretty much to gather up all of the superheroes. The slogan on all of his posters says, "In your hearts, you know he's right." Yeah, in my heart, I know he's kind of a psycho. The main bread and butter of the capabilities of Jim Jaspers takes place in the Marvel UK storyline titled Crooked World. So if you want to see the reality warping that Jim's capable of in full force, go check that out for yourself. Also, I'm calling it right now. Jim Jaspers will be introduced in WandaVision and will be a secret villain pulling the strings in some way, shape, or form. I'm calling it. It's noted. That's it. Check the date, the timestamps. It's all there. Official.
Number 10, Cosmic Ghost Rider. What happens when Frank Castle becomes a Ghost Rider just as planet Earth is dying and there is no one left to avenge? Well, you get the brilliant and insane Cosmic Ghost Rider. This version of Frank Castle ended up teaming up with Galactus originally in order to try and take on Thanos, who threatened the existence of all life at the time as he tried to win the heart of Mistress Death. In the end, no one was left to serve but Thanos, and Cosmic Ghost Rider was driven mad by loneliness and heartbreak and being unable to die. So he eventually ended up joining Thanos anyways. He is as powerful as he is insane at this point and is a frighteningly cheerful version of Frank Castle, especially considering all of the horrors he's witnessed, especially when he was serving Thanos. Did some pretty bad stuff. Number 9, Annihilus. Annihilus is a somewhat lost being who was created in the negative zone on a planet known as Athros. He evolved from life spores that were left there and ended up mutating and growing to be a highly intelligent insectoid-like life form. He has been an enemy and ally to the Fantastic Four, depending on the circumstances, and he also once almost took over Asgard, managing to take on the Asgardian soldiers and even beat Thor. Thankfully, Odin stopped him before he could succeed. Poor Annihilus, I feel like he's so lost in life. Really needs a stronger purpose. Number 8, Iowa the Mungazoth. Hope I'm saying that right. Known as the Lord of Darkness, Iowa the Mungazoth is called upon in an issue of Creatures on the Loose from the 70s. This cosmic eldritch god-like entity could also be tied to the many-angled ones, who occasionally crop up in the Marvelverse. But we don't have enough information to really know whether or not for sure if Iowa the Mungazoth is a separate entity or simply one that we've maybe already met but is operating under a different name, under some kind of alias. He is one of the gods referred to in the comic by the High Priest of the Dragon King, known as Sa. Sa, in the story, aims to make 3 human sacrifices in order to give the energy to the Lords of Chaos that they need so that they may travel across the cosmos to Earth. Sounds like a bad idea. Sounds like you probably don't want the Lords of Chaos to come by, but you know, to each their own. I guess if you're the High Priest of the Dragon King, you do. That's what you want. I'm not here to judge.
Coming in at number 7, we have Null, the god of the symbiotes, a being that lived before the universe was created and existed in endless darkness. And from what I can gather about this character, it seemed that he was okay with just chilling in a void until he was moved from his position at the recreation of the universe. This really pissed him off, and he decided that he would go to war with some of the Celestials, and he actually cut off one of their heads. After that, the Celestials were able to banish him back into the void, but not before he grabbed grab that head. He then used that head to make a living forge and harness the power of evil and darkness to make his symbiote armor and the first symbiote suit. This suit has the power to morph into anything from weaponry to a dragon, and it doesn't have the same weaknesses as regular symbiotes, and with it, Null is able to go toe to toe with some of the most powerful beings in the universe, and the suit was even powerful enough to take over Galactus. Coming in at number 6, we have the Beyonder, an all-powerful celestial force that can bend matter, create worlds, and give people immense power just for the fun of it. He flies around the universe kinda messing with people because he can, and he is so powerful it's thought that the Beyonder is actually a representation of Jack Kirby in the Marvel Universe. He has a strange obsession with people living on Earth because he sees them as incomplete beings who are trying to find a whole consciousness, where he sees himself as the opposite, already maxed out and unable to gain any higher level of consciousness. The event that the Beyonder is most famous for is when he created Battle World. He warped reality to create a whole world so he could handpick villains and heroes to duke it out for his amusement. But this doesn't mean that it's impossible for him to slip up. There was one occasion where Doctor Doom was able to steal away his powers, and as you can imagine, he quickly started shifting reality into his Victor Von Doom liking. Coming at number 5, we have Sidorak, one of the oldest gods from Earth. He used to be worshipped like all of the other great gods on our planet, but for some reason he was banished to the Crimson Realm. He now sits there angry and dishes out powers of destruction to who he sees fit. The most famous person he is given powers to is the Juggernaut, imbuing him with a destructive force to tear down the world. He has the ability to summon armies of people to worship him, and within his Crimson Realm he is powerful beyond belief, but he cannot leave his realm, so unless you go there to pick a fight with him, you don't really need to worry about him, unless he sends the Juggernaut after you. Coming in at number 4, we have the Phoenix Force, one of the better known entities in the Marvel Universe, as it has been able to work its way into movies and shows. It's one of the most powerful forces across the entire Marvel Universe. Now, this force can be used for good, and has been on some occasions. When the Phoenix Force was split between 5 different members of the X-Men in the Avengers vs. X-Men comic run, the holders of the force were able to use the power to rebuild Earth and create a form of world peace. But there have been times when the force is moving through the galaxy as a rogue and will destroy planet after planet while it looks for a host, so it's safe to say that this thing can't be trusted. There's also the fact that most of the characters who merge with the Phoenix Force go through an entire persona shift and have the tendency to destroy things. Coming at number 3, we have Ultron from the Annihilation Conquest storyline. Ultron typically sticks to messing around with things in our solar system, but when you're one of the biggest baddies in the Marvel Universe, eventually you're gonna stretch your legs a bit and start causing havoc around the universe. For a time, the Avengers thought Ultron was destroyed, but that was not the case. He actually transferred his consciousness into the Bible Spire and took command over the Phalanx, and we already know how powerful those people are. After taking control of an army of aliens, he wanted to take over the universe and become even more powerful by discovering a way to take over an organic body, and he set his sights on Adam Warlock. Ultron merged with Adam Warlock and became one of the most deadly forces in the universe, and was just about to make an army of Adam Warlock clones, but was forced out of AW's body by a virus brought on by Nova. But Ultron still managed to take control of millions of Kree soldiers and create a massive body for himself before he was destroyed. Coming in at number 2, we have Galactus. I mean, come on, we can make a list of people tearing down the universe and being some of the most powerful creatures through space-time without putting Galactus on the list. Let's start off by saying Galactus is old, like he's been around for billions of years. In fact, he was at the birth of the multiverse. Without getting too deep into this, Galactus used to be Galen, who was alive in the 6th multiverse, and when it was about to collapse into itself through another rebirth cycle, he flew into the center of the collapse and met the sentience of the multiverse, who gave him the power to survive the rebirth of the multiverse, and he was reborn as Galactus. He could now devour worlds to stay strong. Now, when this bad boy is hungry, he tends to be weak, and he is actually killable. But when he is juiced up on planet fuel, he is able to slap around multiple Celestials at once without even breaking a sweat. And And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Abrax, an entity who was created at the birth of the first multiverse and is the yin to the yang of eternity. Eternity being the force that makes sure the multiverse is constantly reborn and life goes on and reality can keep moving forward. Well, Abrax is the opposite of that. He seeks out the end of existence because that is his purpose. Like, dude, just chill for a minute. I'm trying to plan a picnic over here and I have a hard enough time finding out if it's gonna rain. Now I gotta worry about if existence will be deleted permanently. Eternity saw Abrax as a threat to reality, so he locked him away inside himself. Galactus is the balance that keeps Abrax in place, but when he was killed, this made the universe fall off kilter, and Abrax saw this as an opportunity to force himself into existence and nearly ripped reality apart.
Number 10. Crystal. Crystal is the sister to Medusa. She was also for a long time the love interest of Quicksilver, and the two even had a child together and were married. Crystal has also been in a relationship with Johnny Storm, another famous hero and a member of the Fantastic Four. It is possible through her attachment to Johnny, we could see Crystal introduced in the MCU, as we know the Fantastic Four will be showing up eventually. And perhaps even through Crystal we could be introduced to the Inhumans, and their sometimes cosmic home of Attilan, a floating invisible city that has existed before on the moon and at other times floating over Manhattan, specifically the blue area of the moon, where everything happens on the moon in Marvel. Crystal also has pretty cool superpowers herself, which allow her to control the elements, making her pretty powerful, but not too powerful, as she can tire herself out from overuse. And I personally think people that have the potential to be really powerful but also have some kind of setback, that's a great character for the MCU. Number 9. Karnak. We talk about Black Bolt and Medusa usually when we discuss Inhuman characters that we want to see more of, but there are other Inhumans who are also cool and deserve our attention, like Karnak. Karnak is a master martial artist as well as a priest and philosopher. He possesses the ability to see the flaw in all things, which makes him not only an immensely skilled fighter, but also lends to his intelligence as well. Karnak is also a member of the Inhuman royal family. If the Inhumans do end up appearing in the MCU at any point, Karnak would be a character that we'd hope to see because he's just so interesting and such a badass, even without being exposed to the Terrigen Mists and undergoing Terrigenesis. He is loyal to Black Bolt and Medusa even after he seemingly dies. He manages to return within the New Human lineage, who he is related to but remains kinda trapped within, thinking he is in hell. When he eventually learns the truth, he works toward escaping his prison, bursting forth from lineage, and in the process killing him in Medusa's hour of need, as she was being defeated by Lineage, who had become her royal advisor as she ruled over New Attilan, but had plotted to betray her. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Cosmo the Space Dog. We have seen Cosmo the Dog before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not in as active as a role as comic fans know him for. Originally, Cosmo the Space Dog was an ally of the Guardians of the Galaxy team during their relaunch in 2008. He made his first appearance in the 2007 Nova series in issue number 8 and would join up with the Guardians team led by Star-Lord in their 2008 series Guardians of the Galaxy, appearing as an ally to the team and supporting character as early as issue number 1. Cosmo in the MCU has mostly been relegated to an Easter egg or cameo appearance for comic book fans to enjoy. Cosmo could potentially go on to have more of an actual role in the MCU though, if we get to see more spin-offs with T'Challa as Star-Lord, leading the Guardians team we saw in episode 2 of the What If animated series. Here Cosmo actually gets rescued from Tavon's collection and travels to Wakanda with the team following their adventure in Nowhere. He's there so he could join the team, which I would be really into.
Number 7. God Quarry. In 2016's Thanos series, there's a place known as the God Quarry. It is a pit guarded by 3 eternal witches, known as the Coven. The pit is said to reward those who can overcome its challenges by granting them with great power. But first, you must face whatever it is that could potentially be holding you back. Once in the pit, you find yourself merged within it, becoming a part of it, and then you begin to see what it is that could most tempt you. For me, it would probably be a big pile of cookies. For many leaders who have come there seeking power, the temptation was too great and they could not escape. Instead, now a part of the pit, they remain trapped for eternity. But hey, with great risk comes great reward. And yeah, Thanos did have to go in that pit. And what happens? You're gonna have to read the series I don't want to spoil it. Number 6, the Universal Church of Truth. Almost a misnomer, the Universal Church of Truth is not as innocent as it sounds. It is made up of believers from planets throughout the universe who worship the evil being known as Magus. The church invades planets, and if the planet's inhabitants refuse to accept and adopt their faith, they will burn it to the ground, killing anyone who refuses to join them. They're basically like a really insane cult that invades, converts, and conquers planets. So yeah, they sound better than they are. Number 5, Phalanx. I'm not actually sure what is more scary, the Phalanx or the race they're believed to come from, the Technarchy. The Phalanx's main goal is to eventually conquer and assimilate, so to speak, the entire universe. Now, how do they do this? As a technological race, they use a virus known as the techno-organic virus to infect the planets they come across and eventually use it to devour all organic life there and consume all information on the planet. This virus is the same as the one that Cable is infected with. Or, well, it's similar. He is sort of a variation or an evolution of the virus that they use. But they're both techno-organic viruses. Just not like completely identical. Number 4, Dormammu. An evil cosmic being, Dormammu is one of the most powerful foes in the Marvel Universe. Up until Thanos truly revealed himself, and maybe even after Thanos came to full Infinity Gauntlet power, really, Dormammu was the most powerful foe that we'd seen in the MCU. And odds are good he'll return at some point, given how powerful he is in the Marvelverse in regards to the comics. He's attempted to depose the Celestials, and at one point even tried to take on Eternity. Even if he didn't fare so well, just the idea of taking on Eternity is a big, scary deal. Eternity basically embodies the entirety of Earth 616 and is only surpassed in terms of authority by the Living Tribunal. So yeah, pretty serious business if you're taking on Eternity. That entity, I wouldn't want to mess with it. Number 3, Shuma-Gorath. Shuma-Gorath is one of the Great Old Ones and many Angled Ones, basically a Marvel version of an Elder God. Like Dormammu, he is also known as being one of the Lords of Chaos. Although it's been unclear throughout the comic lore to tell if there are truly multiple Lords of Chaos or just one Lord who keeps being renamed throughout, this Many Angled One is known for being one of the oldest entities in the Marvel Universe. He has returned to Earth many times and set up as a god there, being worshipped even on Earth before the sinking of Atlantis, where he demanded blood sacrifices. Sounds familiar. Sounds like someone else we heard of earlier. Are they the same person? Maybe. I don't know. Number 2, the Brood. These aliens are insectoid beings who reproduce through finding hosts on other planets whom they can implant with their offspring. Great, right? Do we love that? Yeah, basically, you get the picture. It's kind of like Alien, except instead of something bursting out of you, it hatches and then completely takes you over, inside and out. Basically possessing your mind and your body, and then just killing you in the process, so you're really no longer there. The Brood don't just do this to survive, though. They actually enjoy the terror and horror that they cause among other species. They enjoy hurting and frightening others. It doesn't bother them, and to them, it's even pleasant or amusing. Yeah, so scary. Number 1, Cancerverse. While the Cancerverse is an alternate Marvel universe, much of what we see of it involves a cosmic presence. Most of the important goings-ons in regards to stories involving it happen in outer space. The Cancerverse is a world where there is no death. Sounds nice, right? Think again. Without death to provide balance to the world, life was left without anything to hold it back, and as a result became a wild and evil thing, transforming into something like an eldritch god or a monster. This all came to pass because the original Captain Marvel made a deal with the Many Angled Ones in exchange for them curing him of his cancer. The Many Angled Ones themselves is also pretty horrific.